going to have them come and sit at this table, and we'll direct some questions to them.
While we're waiting, I'm gonna see. If you're a black male, stand up. If you're a black male, stand up. And this is Black History Month. You looking at Black history. I'm the first Afro-American mayor of the town of Windfall. First Afro-American mayor of the town of Williamston.
And I'm the first good-looking mayor of Palmerly.
And I'm the first black mayor of Cresswell.
I'm sure our candidates are going to be in here in just a few minutes. I don't know whether they're bashful or what the situation may be, but I'm sure they'll have
made a statement I want a little bit clarity for.
Okay.
Now you said if the redistricting is not done in the time frame, there will be no primaries in the state of North Carolina or just in those districts?
You can't, well,
We don't know.
Well, okay, that's the best answer, but I do hope you know that if you do anything to change the boundaries of either of those districts, you affect all the rest of the state.
Right, I understand.
And so be serious about it, there will be a North primary.
I just want to make sure I understood you.
When you were talking about the district, changing the district, is that like gerrymandering or?
That's what the court said. That's what the court said. Those districts were gerrymandered.
Oh, okay.
We need an aisle clear. I've been out of state for a while, and I just got back in, and I know that that they were going to voting. We had something better than we will be able to have ID for 2016, but I know that there was and the court case is still going on. Or?
That case is still, the judge hasn't rendered a decision in that case.
Where's Gene Butterfield?
Coming.
Representative Butterfield?
I'm in the holding room.
Okay, I'll hold you on up Candace Smith is here. Thank you, sir.
We're trying to accommodate a very specific situation here this morning. We have Mr. Brian Luttrell, who is a candidate for the 1st Senatorial District of North Carolina. He has opposition in the primary, but he wanted to come and he wanted to say hi to Mr. Luttrell.
Thank you, sir. I don't want to take just a moment of your time. I want to introduce myself. I'm Brandon Futrell. I'm from Washington. For 32 years, I was publisher of the Washington Daily News, where I had an opportunity every day to engage in public service. I have missed that opportunity, and so now I'll be offering myself as a candidate for the 1st Senatorial District. We've got great candidates that have primary opposition who will be sharing with you, but I just wanted the opportunity to stop by this morning to see this group, to start. my engagement with you and to tell you that I will be accessible, and I hope over the next few months to get to know all of you much better. I appreciate the opportunity just to stop by. I have other events scheduled today, but it's a real honor and just a serious thank you so much for allowing me just to say hello to this group and to tell you how much I look forward to getting to know all of you as we move forward together. I have a heart for service, and I appreciate what all of you do for this region of the state, and I want to be a part of your team. So thank you so much, and good luck to all the other candidates.
And now we have Ms. Jean Palmer Butterfield, Ms. Judy Justice, and Mr. Warren Judge. All three of them are candidates for or are currently in the North Carolina House of Senate. And so we're going to ask if each of you will take one of those folders. Just take one, whichever. Okay, that's fine. Now, what you've just done is you've selected the order that you're going to be raising the question. Okay, and I believe, Ms. Justice, I believe you have the black folder.
Yes, I do.
That's the first one.
Okay.
So, if you would open your folder, and the question that we have for Ms. Justice and the other candidates is, tell us about you, your experience, and your background, and why we should vote for you in this office.
Hey, well, good morning. Wow, this is a great turnout. I'm really glad to see you. My name is Judy Justice, and I'm currently living in Dare County, although I grew up on the east coast of North Carolina down in an area called Swansboro. I am running for the North Carolina House 6th District, which is got 4 counties in it. It's got Dare, Washington County, part of Beaufort County, and all of Hyde County. I am a retired educator. I taught civics and government when I was teaching, and then I went into school administration and have taught in several different school districts across the state. 6 years in Durham Public Schools, and I'm very familiar also with this area, as I said, because I grew up in the type of environment that the 3 of the counties currently are, which are rural areas. The reason that I am running is because at this point, the North Carolina legislature does not represent the regular people of North Carolina. It needs to have people in it that are like us, meaning 70% of the 178 members currently are wealthy businessmen. I don't think 70% of the state is wealthy businessmen. 72% of them are male. 53% of our state are female. It's 2016. It's time we had equality as far as at least gender goes. Also, income. I have a regular income. I work 2 or 3 jobs a year, part-time, even though I'm retired, in order to be able to live in Dare County. It's a very expensive county, but it's more of an urban county. As I said, the other 3 counties are rural. And they're very low wealth, and I'm very familiar with that. Having worked in schools like Hyde County for 2 years, I know the struggles that those areas go through. Now, I'm also a single mother, which is unusual at my age, but my son's father passed away 9 years ago. It's a totally different perspective than when I had my 2 older kids and when my husband was still alive and raised them. And it's really opened my eyes, having also worked in the schools and worked with parents that struggle like that, to know that we need more opportunity in this state. Economically, equality as far as not just opportunity, but also rights. We need equality in so many different areas, as I mentioned before, as far as the gender issue, but also in the way that the different races are treated. Right now we've got this big issue with health care. And one of the things that's going on is for ideological reasons, the current legislature has denied 500,000 people in our state from having, and these are mostly working people, from having health care. That is awful. They've even closed down a hospital in Belhaven, which is in this district, and so many people are suffering because of that, and most of them are lower income and retired. This is not equality. This is not fair. I'm also very concerned about the environment, and I'm concerned about this because I have, as I said, a child at home, I have grandchildren. I see the future coming down the line. The current legislature has done away with so many of the current rules on EPA. I will fight for that. Okay. Right. So now I guess that was a time limit, which was fine with me. How much, by the way, how much time do we have for each question?
Well, we were doing 3 minutes for
Okay.
the opening statement.
Sure, fine.
Ms. Butterfield?
I am Jean Farmer Butterfield, and I'm in the North Carolina House of Representatives, and I represent District 24, which includes portions of Williamston and portions of Pitt County. I love what I do, and quite frankly, I'm good at it. Being in the legislature since 2003 has given me an opportunity to do what I love doing most, and that's putting people first and helping others, to whom much is given, much is required. What have I done during the time that I've been in office is important for you to know. My experience since 2003 has included working on education and making sure that teachers have raises. However, now they're getting one-time $750 bonuses. I've advocated against that. I'd rather see people have a permanent raise than a one-time bonus. I want to see North Carolina move to the national average for teacher salaries. I want to make sure that you know that we kept teacher assistants in place, although there was a move to totally remove them, as you know. We fought to keep smaller classrooms. We fought to Medicaid expansion. I've been the voice on the floor of the North Carolina legislature in terms of advocating for expansion of Medicaid, 100% federal dollars for 3 consecutive years. 500,000 people would have benefited. 2,500 healthcare workers would have had jobs. I'm still going to advocate and continue to work on that. If I'm re-elected, that's important to me. It's important to my constituents. I have supported programs and services for the elderly and the disabled, the mentally ill and substance abusers. I want to continue to do that. I have fought to keep Winston-Salem State University and Elizabeth City State University intact. I want to continue doing that. I fought for the pharmacy school there at Winston-Salem East Carolina University. I've also fought for the pilot program there, for pilots to have pilot license to fly. I want to continue to work with East Carolina University, Brody School of Medicine, the Heart Center, the Stroke Center. Those things were important to me. North Carolina, Eastern North Carolina in particular, is the stroke belt. So why not support a stroke center? Why not support a heart center? Why not support a dental school there? We've worked hard. We want to keep the pharmacy program in place at the universities. Historically, black colleges are important. I want to make sure that they get their fair share of the money and students benefit in historically black colleges. What is important is voter suppression. I fought against it. I had 2 Republicans that tell me they changed their vote in the legislature because I told them the story about how my mother helped people learn how to vote and read the preamble to the Constitution at her kitchen table when I was a little girl. That had an influence on me. I want to continue to work on my newsletters, my legislative advisory board, and more. Thank you so much. May God bless all of you.
Thank you. Commissioner Judge.
Thank you, and thank you all for having me here this morning. Good morning. My name is Warren Judge. I'm a candidate for House District 6. I live in Kitty Hawk. My wife and I have been married for 41 years. I've lived in Kitty Hawk for 29. Folks, I'm just like one of you all. I'm a small business person. I run a small business. We have about 22, 23 employees, and every morning of my life I go to work and I worry about my folks. I worry about, am I paying them a living wage? Am I paying them enough money so that they can live? Every January when our group insurance bill premium is reset, we've got to figure out a way how we absorb that increase without passing that on to our staff members. I have served as a county commissioner for 16 years, and I'm in my 16th year now. I've chaired the Board of Commissioners in Dare County for 11 years. And let me stop here for a moment and thank Jean. I follow the members of the legislature very closely because they impact the counties. In the last 4 or 5 years, they've impacted the counties very negatively. And I want to applaud you for all that you have done and for us. And I look forward to joining Jean on the floor of the House in January of 2017 so that we get more like-minded people together to represent you folks. I crisscross Dare County every day of my life, and I'm going to do the same thing in House District 6. By November 8th, you will know me, and I will know you in a way that only a good, caring representative who wants to represent you in the House of Representatives can know you. I'm going to represent the farmers. I'm going to represent the fishermen. I'm going to represent our senior citizen population, our retirees, our children, our teachers. I'm going to represent the shop owners and the shopkeepers. I'm going to represent employees in every walk of life. And I'll know their problems, and I'll be able to represent you. Folks, there's serious times right now in Raleigh, North Carolina. They do not listen to the people in the field. They don't respond well to the counties. They have done many things to your county commissioners over the years and how they've hurt the budget. The cornerstones of there are many issues I will fight for and work on, but the cornerstone to my campaign is going to be what we like to refer to 3 E's: education, the environment, and our economy, or jobs. Education, my opponent in November will tell you how the General Assembly is spending more today in education than they've ever spent before. But that's just not right. If you all are making the same amount of money in 2008 that you're making today, you've backed up. And that's what's happening in our education. The top figure might be more, but the per pupil is far less for more than 1 million more students. I look forward to talking more and answering more of your questions. Thank y'all.
Ms. Smith, you just got here, but you're responding to question number 1 in the packet, and you have 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Good morning. My name is Candy Smith, and I am a resident of Greenville, North Carolina, where I currently serve on the City Council. I'm the Mayor Pro Tem. I've been on the City Council for the last 6 years and just elected to my 4th term. I have been asked the question several times, why are you interested in running for the House seat? Well, I'm interested in advocacy at a higher level because I'm passionate about what I do. I'm dedicated, I'm determined, and I'm dependable. I don't hold back on when I take a stand for an issue. I am willing to fight for the citizens. I have for the last 6 years, and I want to continue for the next several years. What I'm interested in is, if we look at economic development, everybody's interested in that. We want to make sure we bring jobs into the eastern North Carolina. But we want to make sure we bring jobs with livable wages. We want to make sure that people are able to function. Because right now, when I look at just my teachers, they're having to work 2 and 3 jobs to provide for their families, which means they don't get a chance to interact with their families. And that's not a good thing at all. So we have to look at what can we do to come together to bring more jobs within eastern North Carolina. And I'm interested in fighting for that. I'm also interested in making sure that we consider what's happening in education. We know that we've had a lot of battles, and they continue. At times I've heard people say, well, I don't really think educating them is important. And that's puzzled me. We also have battles if we're going to go with Common Core. How has that been effective for us? Is it really working? Is it costing us more? Are we actively really measuring our children and what they're learning? So when I'm in Greenville, I spend time in the school systems. I sub intentionally so that I can go into every school and see what the challenges are. You don't have to tell me, well, if you see what we go through, I see what they go through because I'm there with them. I see the challenges. I see that everybody has to share a book. You can't take a book home. When I was growing up, you took a book home, you did your homework, you studied. But we don't have funds for that. We have funds for everything else, but we're cutting out education. When we look at criminal justice reform, I know everyone in this room know the issues that are affecting us as a nation, period. We have to start somewhere, and people who are not willing to back down, I'm not willing to back down. It costs $40,000 to put somebody in prison and $3,000 to educate them. Why would we not do that? Why would we not push for that? Why would we not support our community colleges? Why would we not support our education from elementary on up to make sure they have what they need? Never am I going to sit in the seat and say anybody's done a bad job. Because being willing to sit in this seat is a task at hand, and I applaud everybody who does it. But I think it's a great thing when you have more people involved in government. We complain too many times of not having enough people, and so I am putting myself out there to let citizens know I am willing to represent you. Again, my name is Candy Smith, and primary is 15th of March. I would love to have your vote. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. If you don't mind, folks, I would ask you again, we need to hold our balls. That's taking time away from the candidate speaking. Ms. Justice, if you would turn to question number 4 in the package. And here's question number 4. North Carolina's general population is 68% white, 21% black, and 8% other. The prison population is 57% white, 35% black, and 8% other. How do you explain the disparity of blacks and whites in the general population in the state and their numbers in the prison population? And we're going to have about 2 minutes for this.
That's a very complex, but actually simple question. Economic disparity, not disparity of opportunity, disparity in education. And it's based on, I taught history. I know where this is coming from. It came about after the Civil War that was supposed to bring equality that didn't happen. Instead, you had Jim Crow laws. And even though the 1964 Civil Rights Act technically changed the law, that didn't change people's behavior, and it's still going on. One of the situations that arose from the end of slavery and the Jim Crow South was the fact that economically, the black population was forced to live in an equal environment with less opportunity in education. So now today, currently, that is slowly changing, but way too slow. And it doesn't help the way the media, it doesn't help the way the people ignore the problem. They need to recognize what's going on. Some of that, just at this point, we have a African-American president, but that has not really changed people's minds and hearts. We have to keep working at this. I am very proud of our children, although there is still legacy big time left over from this awful situation. Because this generation now is probably more open in their mind to experience and understanding. But there's still so much holding down people that are African American in our society. And we need to keep the laws we have. We need to enforce the laws we have. We need to be very aware of the situations going on right now in law enforcement. I'm happy to see that recognized now, too. But the biggest disparity is when you get down to the legal system, if you're talking about prisons, is a lack of opportunity for decent legal service because you don't have the money to afford them. People with money, they're awful. I mean, if they're white and they've got lots of money, they can break practically any law right up to murder. All kinds of crimes go on. They get away with it. You know, kids, a lot of these are related to our drug laws, which really need to be changed big time, and that too is being recognized to be changed. So I can explain a lot, and I can keep on talking, but this is my take on what's going on here, and I think it's pretty right on.
Economic disparities, lack of jobs, lack of educational opportunities. You know, you can go to elementary school, you can go to community college, maybe. You may go to a 4-year college. So there are disparities, and that's one of the reasons why there are more African Americans in prison than whites. In addition to all that she said, I don't want to repeat what she said. There is also an economic engine for the state of North Carolina to have prisons. They want to keep them open. They want to keep people in jail. They want to keep them in prison systems so they can continue to have jobs, so they can continue to promote certain high salaries. So to me, the state would rather do that than do intervention or prevention. And it's cheaper to do intervention and prevention than to put people in prison. It costs more money. However, the state of North Carolina has not focused on intervention and prevention. They've focused on imprisoning people. Moving the age, I introduced a bill so that sex offenders, youth offenders rather, are looked at rather than having them treated as adults at age 18, trying to change it to them being treated as adults rather than at 16 and 17, put them in prisons like adults. They don't have the same maturity level as adults. So why are we treating them like adults? So that's a bill that we need to continue to work on getting passed. I think that the whole thing is that we need to work with our young people, make sure that they're trained and educated and understand that there is hope. There are job opportunities for them. They do need to get a good education, that we're going to do all we can to help them get a good education so that they can deter crime. We need to work on black crime. We need to work on racial profiling. I introduced a bill on that was very comprehensive. We need to have cameras. We got that passed so that the police can be videotaped. There are a lot of things that we need to do, but we need to have a comprehensive approach, and we need to reduce the population. We got people in jails and prisons for minor problems. We have people with mental illness and substance abuse who are sitting in the prison system not getting treatment.
Thank you. And this will be somewhat repetitious, but if we had more teachers in our classroom and teachers could spend more time with their students, if we had more funds in the educational system so that there's more teachers' assistants, if we had the ability to assist our children growing up from pre-K on up, if we've got better jobs, if we've got economic potential, and if we've got a ladder that our people can climb, so they're not in despair of joblessness, they're not in the despair of having to work 2 and 3 jobs. Those are some technical issues that this General Assembly can address. They can begin to address the problem of people growing up without hope. But let's not sugarcoat this. We still discriminate. This is a system of laws and a system of judicial justice that is still biased against people of color. And we're doing it today. We've got a person running for President of the United States who wants to keep you out of this country because you're a Muslim. I mean, that is going to revamp, that is going to rekindle our own prejudice and biases that we have had in this country for years. It's absolutely wrong. It is time that we begin to trust the people's hearts, our neighbors' hearts, and not look at the color of their skin. Until we do that, until we get into our churches, and until our parents can have more time with their children and not have to work 2 and 3 jobs to raise their children right, we're not going to stop this problem. I'll have an opponent in November who I guarantee you will sit there behind these dioceses and say, I'm a conservative Christian. I say to them, don't preach to me, teach me, prove. You don't have to tell me you're a Christian if you are a Christian. If we love each other in this room, we don't have to say it. And that's the basic problem that we have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Judge.
Well, just as I've stated earlier with my platform, I think one of the big issues that we might be overlooking is the criminal justice reform. If we didn't have everybody being put in jail over simple things, I mean, I get calls from individuals who are being searched for no reason. That's an issue for me. If you're not going to search the neighborhood next to this one, why are you going to come in and randomly search this neighborhood? And you can always find something if that's what you're looking for. And that's the issue that many of our black males are being faced with. So they're being put into the system, and then when they get out, they're forced to find a job. But then there's no companies that want to hire them. So one of the things that I supported on the city council is ban the box. So that means if you're qualified for the position, you think you're qualified, then you can come and apply. And you come to the table and you present your qualifications, and then during that time, you share, okay, I've been arrested, this is what it's for, I moved beyond that, so that you can get that job. Because we don't want things like that blackballing people. And that's what's happening a lot of times. So we had to figure out what can we do to take a look at that. But not only that, we're taking a tough look at our police department. If you've ever Googled me, unfortunately, you'll see that I've been arrested in Greenville as a city council member. Ridiculous. So if it's happening to me, it's happening to the citizens. So I vowed never to let that happen to anybody else, because it's wrong. If you're in town, I'm in town, it's wrong. If you arrest me for doing something, not because I looked at you in your eyes. What is wrong? You're telling me as a black person I can't respect myself? You're telling these black males they can't respect themselves? That is an issue. I'm going to keep fighting for that. I don't care if I'm on the local level. I don't care if I'm on the state level or the national level. It is wrong. That's why you have these disproportionate numbers right now. But if people are not willing to stand up, I don't want to say nothing because I don't want nobody to say anything to me, that's a problem. I will let you know, if I represent you, I will stand for this. And we're going to make a change, period.
Thank you. Now, each of you will have a minute for a closing statement. We'll begin with you, Ms. Justice.
Well, I'm listening to this. I mean, we're all of like mind. Most of us have very similar ideologies, beliefs, and understanding of the world, and I happen to think it's a very intelligent one. If I am elected, I will fight for everybody in this room and everybody in the district. I am somebody that actually understands all the people because I've been there at all levels. I'm not living in a particular upper class. I am a working person, luckily educated. I put myself through school, and I want to put that same kind of drive that I had to help me go get forward to actually help everybody in this room and everybody in the district. As I said, all 4 of those counties and district are very different. And 3 of those counties, I already understand them. I already know where they're coming from. And I'll be out there and ready to serve the day I get elected. And I will be digging deeper in how to help them every day. But I am the representative that will be most responsive and understanding and fight hardest for that district.
I have been fighting and will continue to fight. I introduced a bill to make sure that the living wage was put in place. I'm going to continue to fight for that bill to be passed. I wanted to introduce to the voters so that they can vote on whether or not a living wage should be in place. I'm going to continue to fight for that if you re-elect me. I have a bill for wages and tips. I want to continue to promote that bill. I have a comprehensive bill on racial profiling. I want to continue to fight for that. I want to change the age of youth offenders to 18 and above. Health care workers, I'm going to fight for that. I got a bill for 2,500 health care workers, primary care. I'm going to fight for that. I'm going to continue to fight for historically black colleges, minority contracts in the state of North Carolina. I'm on the program evaluation committee. That's something we're looking on. I'm going to continue to have my newsletters weekly when we're in session, monthly thereafter. I want to continue to have a legislative assistant in Williamston County 1 day a week, in Pitt County 1 day a week. I'm going to continue to be in Pitt County anywhere from 3 to 4 times a week. I'm going to continue to have my legislative advisory board to tell me what the legislative priorities are in Wilson and Pitt counties. I have that group functioning. We have an agenda for the next 4 years. Love to hear from others as to what they want to have happen. My issues and concerns are their issues and concerns. I am a fighter. I get things done. My track record speaks for itself. Leadership you can trust, a track record of success. Read about it. Go online, or I have copies for you today of all the things that I've done since 2003, and indeed the things that I will continue to do. May God bless all of you, and thank you for having me. And by the way, I do a mock session on the public school system with children around the state, particularly in my district. And what they learn is how the legislative process works. They get to debate bills, they get to vote, and it's a wonderful process. So I'm in the schools constantly. If the schools don't call me, I go to them and go in. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity today. What you'll get when you elect Warren Judge is you'll get a proven leader. You'll get somebody who knows this district. I know this district already. I know many of you all. More of you will get to know me. I know the problems that we have. I know the challenges that we have. I've balanced budgets for 16 years. I've overseen a major construction program in school facilities. I've overseen the doubling of local school funding in an environment where the state has taken money and taken money. You can check with the folks in Dare County and they'll tell you what type of service I will give you. Every day of my life I will work for you. We've got to address, and I've got answers, and I look forward to working with my colleagues. I know there are ways that we can fund improvements to our education. I've attracted medical services and expanded medical services to Dare County. I'm aware of the challenges we have with insurance, and we're going to work on that. And thank you for this opportunity today. You can reach me through all sorts of social media and email, and I look forward to continuing this discussion. Thank you.
I would like to start by saying thank you so much for inviting us here. And again, my name is Candy Smith. I am willing to serve you. I'm willing to listen to the citizens. I am accessible. Again, I'm dependable. I'm determined. And I'm willing to go and get the job done. Will I ever sit here in this seat and give you any guarantees? No. Should I make any promises? No. We all know that it's a challenging climate. I am willing to work across aisles because we have to. In order to make sure that we get what we need, we have to make sure we're working together. That means we create a win-win situation when we do it that way. Our focus should be on moving the greater good forward. So I'm willing to make sure that I serve black, white, Latino, Hispanic, young, old, it does not matter. And I don't want us to let our young individuals feel like they have to be left behind or they have to wait their turn and they have to not be involved, because that's not necessary. We're in a dying world and we need some changes. So please remember Candy Smith on March the 15th. God bless you. Have a great evening.
Thank you. we appreciate you having been here.
Thank you for having us.
We need to have the next person to come in. Next candidates that we have are the candidates for the state school superintendent. And we have Mr. Henry Pinckney, we have Superintendent Jim Atkinson. If you take one of those forward. And each of you will have 2 minutes to give us an opening statement and to respond to question number 1. We'll begin with you, Madam Superintendent.
Good morning, everyone. I'm June Atkinson, State Superintendent, and it's a pleasure to be with all of you again. It is a pleasure to be in the eastern part of the state where I have traveled many, many miles and visiting schools throughout the state since I became State Superintendent in 2005. In October, or several months ago, I had the honor of going to the White House to meet with President Obama in the Oval Office to talk about public education and what needed to be done. I tell you that for 2 reasons. One, I was honored to represent the students, the teachers, and the other educators in North Carolina in the Oval Office of the White House. And second, the reason why I tell you that story is because of public education, I have had many opportunities. And I want each child in North Carolina, regardless of whether they live in Gates County, Charlotte, Mecklenburg, to have a quality education. Because of public education, I have been able to go on to get a bachelor's degree in business education, a master's and a doctorate at NC State University. I've had the privilege of working as a teacher in Roanoke, Virginia, and in Charlotte, North Carolina. I've had the privilege of serving as your state superintendent since 2005, although I was elected in 2004. And during my time as state superintendent, our graduation rate has gone from 68% to over 86%. And that means that all of our children are graduating at higher levels. And we know that 67% of the jobs in North Carolina will require post-secondary education. So getting our students to graduate is extremely important. Also during that time, and we see this in eastern North Carolina, students have the opportunity to gain college credit while still in high school. I am glad to be here, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you today.
Thank you. Mr. Banks.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Henry Pankin. I felt good coming here. I'm from a small town, Laurinburg, North Carolina, and I just felt at home coming down the highway. I was born and raised in Laurinburg, North Carolina. When I was small, there was a radio show, Paul Harvey. It would say the voice of the South, the rest of the story. I have over 100 awards I received, but the rest of the story, I was born and raised in Laurinburg. I lived in a barn. I used to tell people I was poor because I couldn't afford the R on poor. We were just plain poor. Went to New York City, principal, 1978, I went to New York City, the 5th most violent school in New York's history. And in 1 year became one of the safest in the state. The rest of the story moved back 1996 to Laurinburg, North Carolina, Scotland High School. The first time the school received exemplary status. Let's move some more. Southern Durham High School I went. I didn't go to the White House. Actually, the White House came to me. Southern High School was one of 11 low-performing schools in the state of North Carolina. In 1 year, Southern Durham High School became one of the most improved schools in Durham the state of North Carolina, and the United States of America. And I'm proud I was principal of this school. On national television, James Hunt said, he is an example of leadership. Southern High School went from low performing to exemplary status in 1 year, and we broke local, state, and national school improvement records in 4 months.
Thank you, Mr. Danger. I wish if you would turn to question number 5 in your packet. And here's question number 5. There is an acknowledged gap in the performance of students in our schools. What strategies would you use to address this gap?
It is important that we recognize that there are some root causes for the gap that we have in our state. And I'm pleased that we have begun to address that gap. But there are some structural changes that need to be made in order to address the gap, and they include preschool education. We know that preschool education makes a difference, and we have examples in Dare County and other places in our state where we have closed the achievement gap when children have access to quality preschool. We also know that teachers are critical, and right now our teachers are not being respected through competitive wages. They're not being respected by having time to do work with others. And so another strategy is to continue to support our teachers in our state who do such hard work. The other is that we need to address the problem of time. We know that students lose 2.5 to 3 months of reading progress every single summer if they do not have extra time and help during the summer. So we have to address that summer reading gap. And one of the programs that has been embraced in this part of the state as others is the Read 5, Give 5, where children, where we get books from volunteers and we send 5 books home to children so that they can read during the summer. The other thing is, I know from experience that one person cannot do it. It takes someone who is willing to listen, to work, and bring people together on behalf of each child in our state. Our economy, our livelihood, our standard of living depends on how we treat each child in our state. It is necessary that we continue on the path to close our achievement gap and raise each child to the place where they can be successful and have options.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I'm glad you asked. I've done it before, from low performing to exemplary status. Let me give you examples. First, Scotland High School, Southern High School, and on the state team, Reedsville High School. So when you talk about closing the gap, you're talking about low performing to exemplary status. And many times people say, well, the gap problem is poverty. Well, you know, free and reduced lunch, that's how you eat. That's not how you learn. You close the gap first. It is an attitude gap before you close the achievement gap. We must change the attitude and make education the #1 priority. And I'll give you some strategies. But first of all, it is a great question. I'm glad you asked. I can make available to you by email for free how to close the achievement gap. I've written a book, How to Turn Around Low Performing Schools. And it talks about specifically how to close the gap. First thing, address learning styles. Everybody, you know, we say one size doesn't fit all, but we give all the exact same tests, the exact same curriculum, but people have different learning styles. We have to address their learning styles. And where are they? You know, we have students in high school in the 10th grade who read on the 6th grade level. How do you close the gap? Well, first, again, you go back to where they are. If they're reading on the 6th grade level, and move them to the 7th, to the 8th, to the 9th, and to the 10th. How do you do it? First, effective teaching. Every day, 1978, I became an educator. Up until yesterday, I think yesterday, improving instruction in the classroom, how to do it, make sure what's in that building going on. Besides, there's 4 walls that you have great teaching, and that's about observing people and providing staff development. And I provide the staff development for my teachers. I don't go and look for a new initiative. I do it.
Thank you, Mr. Banky. We're now going to give you each a minute for a closing statement, and we appreciate it. Go ahead.
Well, why am I running for superintendent? There are a lot of reasons. Children are reason enough. Every child deserves a school that's either successful or on the way to being successful. And I'm running for all children, but let me tell you the one I'm running for more than anybody else. You know the young man on the back row with his hood on and his sunglasses and toothpick and sleep, and people pretend or act like they don't see it? You know the young man or the young lady who get off the bus without notebook, paper, and pencil, or a laptop, and people pretend they don't see it? You know the young man who comes to school, as a matter of fact, if I'm elected superintendent in November 2016, that's the end of SAGIT, period. That's the end of it. Why am I running? A lot of reasons. Children are reason enough.
Certainly, children are reason enough to run and to work hard on behalf of each child in our state. One thing that differentiates my opponent from me is that I have a proven record of working throughout the state in a collaborative way with teachers, with principals, and as people in this room who know me, you know that it is my goal and my heart is in the place of making sure that each child is a success. When I think about policies and I think about turning around schools and the material that Mr. Pankey has eloquently compiled in his book, he's taken many ideas that were part of the work that I have done in the Department of Public Instruction and the people with whom I have worked. Students certainly are the reason why I'm running for state superintendent, but the other reason is that I have a proven record of moving public education forward in this state, not just for some children, but for each child. Thank you so much, and I ask for your support.
Thank you. That's all the time here.
Hello?
And we have, you have 3 minutes to address that question.
Let me first thank everybody for being here this morning.
Hello?
Let me thank everyone for being here this morning, and thank you for the opportunity to address each and every one of you. The first question here is tell you a little bit about my experience. I grew up in Spring Lake, North Carolina, which is right next to Fort Bragg. Received a full track and field scholarship to East Carolina University. Left East Carolina and was enlisted into the United States Army as a computer system operation analyst. A few years later, I was commissioned as a second lieutenant. I was deployed to Iraq, Afghanistan. I was awarded the Bronze Star for my work, our signal work that we did in the Green Zone. I left active duty, spent a little bit of time on Capitol Hill with Congressman John Lewis, left Capitol Hill and went to law school at William & Mary School of Law. Upon graduating from law school, I worked for the Department of Defense as a cybersecurity policy director, writing policy for DOD. In that time period, I came back home to Spring Lake, North Carolina. We took over a community that had a lot of police corruption and a lot of other challenges. I became the mayor of the city after running against a 30-year incumbent. We won with 76% of the vote, and I've since been reelected 2 times since then, and now I'm serving in my 3rd term. I left the Department of Defense, started my own company called the Ray Group, which is a strategic planning company that works with small businesses and nonprofits. But in the midst of that process, I got picked up to become the executive director of a not-for-profit organization where we coordinate health care for the uninsured. It's called Cumberland Health Net. So the individuals who are too poor to buy insurance but not poor enough to get access to Medicaid. And I've now been serving as the executive director for the last year. Why I believe that my background provides me the opportunity to serve as the next United States Senate is because I bring a law background, a business background, a government background, and I'm ready. And I'm ready to serve in that position, in that capacity.
Okay. If you would turn forward to question number 2.
Do I read it out loud? Or?
I'll read it.
Okay.
This is question number 2.
The North Carolina General Assembly adopted changes to the state's election laws regarding same-day registration, early voting, out-of-precinct voting, photo ID, and others. A judge will soon rule on some of the changes. What is your opinion on the proposed changes?
When I was deployed to Iraq, and I don't share this a lot, but the reason why I got the Bronze Star was because of the work that we did in helping the Iraqi government be able to fulfill their first democratic election. And so if I'm going to go halfway around the world to be able to allow people to get access to the ballot box, then you will rest assured here in my own state, my goal is to make sure that our individuals have an opportunity to the ballot box. I don't agree with the work that the General Assembly has done to be able to limit individuals' access. I will say that I hope that the judge will rule in our favor. It is very clear that the measures that are going to put in place is going to disenfranchise a lot of individuals, especially folks from our community. And I look forward to the opportunity as serving as the United States Senator to be able to be having a greater platform to be able to highlight that. Because what is taking place across the country are different legislators that are limiting individuals to the ballot box. And again, the majority of those folks look like folks that look like me. And so my opinion is that it's the proposed changes are wrong. And I would love to work with the folks utilizing my platform and working with the folks in the General Assembly to hopefully put some better measures in place.
Thank you. If you would turn to question number 6.
And number 6 says, how will you incorporate input from the citizens in your district, state it is, in the decisions that you make?
Absolutely. Let me first start from speaking from the experience of me being the mayor of Spring Lake. I will tell you, when I first took over our community, we had a police department that was, for folks that were following, when I came in, the FBI had taken away our powers to even arrest individuals. So we had the sheriff department doing our work. We had a community we had not seen a lot of business growth. We had a community that when we looked in the mirror, we didn't like what we saw. And when I became the mayor of the city, last week we were just recognized as one of the best police departments in the state of North Carolina because of the work that we've been doing. I've now added almost 100 companies to our economy since being there. But in the midst of all of that, we've been able to do that through putting together a new system of how folks communicate with me as the mayor in the office of the mayor. It's not uncommon for folks to not only be able to utilizing the social media, utilizing our updated website that we had, but just being accessible. One of the challenges that we face with our current U.S. Senator is that there are a lot of folks, as I moved around the state, you can't be a U.S. Senator for 20 years and people still don't know who you are. And that's what we're experiencing because, you have to recognize that you are serving different layers of people. You have your senior citizens who, your senior folks, that not all of them are on Facebook, and not all of them are going to be engaged social media-wise. So that means that you're going to have a part of your customer service is going to have to be really towards those individuals. And you have another layer of individuals who they are just, you don't need to talk to them, you need to send them a text, or you need to be able to reach them through social media, and that's fine. But as an elected official, you got to recognize that there are different layers of folks that you're going to be representing. And in order for you to be able to be as effective, you want to be able to address the whole. In Spring Lake, there are groups that I talk to directly. There are folks who follow us that follow us through our social media through the town, and then there are folks who follow me through my social media personally. And as we grow as elected officials, you have to be able, because of the state of North Carolina, we have almost 10 million people. That means that I have to have an infrastructure in place that's going to be able to reach individuals. The customer service out of the office of the U.S. Senator of Chris Ray is going to be one that's such that folks are going to be able to say, this guy, he's reaching us. He's reaching us at every single level. But if you don't have an individual who cares or understands that, then you get what you get, and that's what we're getting right now, which is unacceptable.
Mr. Ray, if you would turn to question number 7, and this is question number 7.
What is your position on the Affordable Care Act, so-called Obamacare, and why do you feel that way?
Sure. As I stated earlier, I currently serve as the executive director of a not-for-profit that coordinates health care for the uninsured. That is my full-time job. The name of the company is called Cumberland HealthNet. And Cumberland HealthNet works with individuals who cannot afford private insurance, but not poor enough to get access to Medicaid. And of course, as you all know, that our good governor chose not to expand Medicaid in the state of North Carolina. Out of the 500,000 people who are not getting access to health care, the huge percentage of those individuals look like you and I. And so the challenge is, with Cumberland HealthNet, what we do is we work with individuals who have chronic diseases and are able to, and I build relationships with primary care providers to see those individuals for just the copay. And that comes through a lot of coordination. I know that the Affordable Care Act isn't perfect. But what I do know is that 40+ million people in America not having access to health care is not right. And since the implementation of the Affordable Care Act, we're now down to 19 million individuals who do not have access to health care. If elected the next United States Senator from North Carolina, my goal is to make sure that we look at the areas that are creating the challenges for the Affordable Care Act through small businesses and the ones who are saying that it's creating a more burden for them. So that discussion needs to be had. But what I will not do is us go back to what we used to have, which is not having access at all. I recognize that in specific communities in North Carolina, that there are individuals who get no care at all. And if you're going to be an elected official, rather than just saying that we're going to repeal this because it's not good for America, give me something else in return. And what we receive from our current leaders is that they don't have an alternative, and that's a challenge. So I am supportive of it, and I will be fighting to make sure that we expand it here in North Carolina as the next U.S. Senator.
Thank you. Mr. Ray, we're going to give you 3 minutes to make a closing statement.
Again, thank you all so much for this opportunity. I know that I have not had the opportunity to reach everyone. One of the challenges that I've found out in this race is that there isn't an infrastructure in place for somebody like me. And the challenges that we have is that it's taken 25 years for us since Harvey Gantt decided to run for the U.S. Senate for us to be able to be in a place to where I know that we can win this. Now, I have the background to be the next U.S. Senator from North Carolina. And as I've said to a lot of people across the state, this is what you get when you marched in the streets. This is what you got when you got spat on. This is what you got when they told you that you could not come through the front door. This is what you produced. An individual who is educated, who is capable, and who is ready to take this fight on behalf of everybody. Now, I know who I am, and I know who I represent. Now, as the next U.S. Senator, I'm going to represent everybody from North Carolina. But what I do know is that I know who I will be truly representing. And I hope that we will be able to lay a groundwork for the next generation of folks. I'm running for the U.S. Senate because the economy is not equal for everybody. I'm running because the healthcare system isn't equal for everybody. I'm running because the criminal justice system isn't equal for everybody. And at some point, we got to send somebody that look like us to be able to put our perspective at the table. That's what this is about. It's not that these folks aren't good people who don't want to help folks, but our perspective is missing. Now, if you haven't almost had your lights turned off or know how to stretch a paycheck or have folks who went to jail and don't know how to find jobs, then that perspective is missing. When I became mayor of Spring Lake, the first bill I signed into law was ban the box. Now, everybody's talking about ban the box in 2015 and 16. I did it in 2012. Why? Because I had uncles who went to prison, who got out, who wasn't able to get a job because individuals wasn't giving them a second chance. That was because I brought my perspective to the mayor's office. You know, we implemented cameras to our police department 3 months before even folks knew what Ferguson was, because we brought our perspective to the table. And if I get the opportunity to represent us in Washington, D.C., I will bring our perspective to the table. I need your prayers, I need your support, but I need your vote most of all on March 15th, and I need you to go out and tell individuals that we have someone who has the capacity to represent us. The capacity. And I promise you, if you give me that chance, I will do it, and I will do it well, and I won't forget where I come from. That's all. I got it. Thank you.
If we could have your attention, please. We currently have two other persons here whom you perhaps already know, and the persons of our Secretary of State, Elaine Marshall, and our Commissioner of Insurance, Dwayne Goodwin. Both of them are here. They do not have opposition in the primary, but they're here because they wanted to share with us. And so we're going to try to provide an opportunity for both of them to speak to us. And if we could have your attention, Madam Secretary, you may address.
About how much time?
5 minutes.
Well, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Thank you all for being here, and I'm delighted to see people way in the back of the room. That's great. This is a great crowd. I don't know how many different counties are represented, but thank you for giving your time on this very pretty day as we lead up to the Super Bowl. My staff has been very excited about that. I'm in competition with the Secretary of State of Colorado, and the benefit is a food drive, and it will go to the food bank of our place and their place in the name of, I'm sure, the Panthers. So we're doing something charitable rather than something otherwise. I am Elaine Marshall. I am your Secretary of State. This is not the first time I've been to this event. It's not the first time I've been in many of your communities. You have supported me across the years, and I now am in my 20th year as Secretary of State. So thank you. When somebody tells you that you can't change the ship of state, you can tell them, oh no, Elaine Marshall did it at the Secretary of State. Thank you for your support. Thank you for allowing me to take away the geographical penalty for people that want to start a business in places like Williamston and Plymouth and Dare County. You now can do so much of your work online. Before I came into office, you really had to send a runner to Raleigh or mail something to Raleigh and just wait and hope that it would come back in a month. We are turning around corporations, LLCs, and nonprofit organizations at a very rapid rate. It is not what I would like it to be. I have always wanted 2-day turnaround. But as the General Assembly in their wisdom has cut my budget and cut my budget, while technology has helped with some efficiencies, you just have to have extra help when the volume picks up, and they're not willing to give that to me. So at peak times, we do fall behind. I hope that all of you will pick up the telephone or send me an email if there's some issue about some of our filings. And I know a number of you are involved in nonprofits, and we have made a very serious effort to help those folks in the nonprofit arena, because frequently they don't have the money to put into hiring lawyers to work through their paperwork or whatever it might be. So we have always done outreach to community service-based nonprofits around this state to help make sure they're meeting the needs of the citizens in their area and filling their mission. Thank you for allowing me to be the top cop on the job when people are trying to scam senior citizens with investment offerings that are bogus. You know, Bernie Madoff is our newest North Carolina citizen, kind of, at least most famous. But he didn't start Ponzi schemes and he didn't end them. There are a lot of mini Madoffs running around North Carolina. Last year we sentenced 17 of them in either state or federal court to what for some of them will amount to life sentences. When you're 65 years old and you get a 20-year sentence, that's in federal court, that's basically a life sentence as far as I'm concerned. But the sad part is we learn about these scams way long into them, and the money has been wasted away. They are Ponzi schemes. They get new money in to pay out earlier investors, and it just is like a house of cards and it falls apart. Those 17 people defrauded over 700 North Carolina citizens out of about $180 million. That's money that some hard-earned person worked for, had in a nest egg, and thought they were investing it wisely. And it didn't happen that way. So we take our education component very seriously about helping people be better informed investors. Go to sosnc.com, says check before you write one. Click on where it says investments. If you also want to check out charities at that same yellow check mark, you could click on charities and see how they do with their money. But in the investment side, it'll tell you what the Ponzi schemes are that are going around right now. It'll also tell you what kind of questions to ask to make sure that the person that's hustling you is registered, is legitimate, and that your money has a chance of working for you. If you feel like you've been scammed, file a complaint with us. We follow up on all these. You know, people say, why do we have state-level securities? Because we got the Securities Exchange Commission. Well, the Securities Exchange Commission, the closest office is in Atlanta, Georgia. Secondly, they don't really touch a case anything under, they say $100,000. I say it's probably got to be $500,000 before they get engaged in it. So for the mom-and-pop investor who's lost $5,000, $10,000, $20,000, we're the cop on the beat, and you can get a hold of us. We can do something to investigate, and if we're onto it early enough, it may be that there's money there that we can get to return to you. Thank you for allowing me to serve the citizens of North Carolina. Thank you for allowing me to be, I hope, what you would consider an example of a good public servant. Reaching out, that's my timer, reaching out, being accessible. I hope this is not the first time you've seen me in eastern North Carolina, because if it is, you've been in a hibernation like a bear somewhere for a while. I love getting out and about outside of Raleigh. Feel free to contact me, and if you want to check the campaign site, it's elainemarshall.com. I am very pleased to be serving you and hope to serve you again. I need your vote and seek your support for November of this year. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. It is great to be back here with you. My name is Wayne Goodwin. I'm our State Insurance Commissioner. It's a pleasure to be here with my colleague, Secretary of State Elaine Marshall. This is not my first time with many of you, but I may have some folks in the room that I've never met. In case you don't know me, I'm from a town called Hamlet. Who knows where Hamlet, North Carolina is? It's Richmond County. That's my hometown. I represented Richmond, Scotland, Montgomery, and Stanley counties in the legislature for 8 years. And then my wife succeeded me, and she served that area for 6 years. We believe in public service. I followed Jim Long, who served a long time as insurance commissioner, and I'm now running for a third term as our state insurance commissioner. Now, since Secretary Marshall mentioned about the Super Bowl, I also have a wager with the Colorado insurance commissioner, and I'm hoping that I'll be able to benefit from a victory by the Panthers. But if by some chance we don't prevail, the folks in Colorado are going to enjoy some barbecue from eastern North Carolina. That's a part of the little wager there. But let me tell you about what this job is about and what my work on your behalf is about. It is about protecting all of us, protecting our pocketbooks, protecting us from greedy insurance companies. That's the biggest issue right there. And I'll tell you, I've got a lot of statistics to share with you, but the bottom line is this. Through rate cuts, refunds, rebates, restitution, all the things where I'm going to bat for you as our state insurance commissioner, I've saved North Carolinians over $2.4 billion. That's a lot of money. I want to continue fighting for you. There are other things that we've done too, in addition to that. We've arrested people committing insurance fraud. There are people, these greedy folks with insurance companies that steal your money. Sometimes there are other folks, agents and the like, who steal your money. And there are other people who commit fraud in other ways. We've arrested over 1,500 people for committing fraud. And we've recovered $75 million for victims of insurance fraud. Maybe you, other folks in our communities across North Carolina. I also administer a fire insurance fund. I'm the state fire marshal. And I have helped administer $12 million each year for our volunteer fire departments. Give you an example. Here in Martin County this year, I distributed $86,000. Hertford County, about the same amount. We do that every year to make sure our volunteer fire departments receive the resources that they need. Something else that we do at this office, I'm very pleased and proud to share with you, is that for the first time ever, as our state insurance commissioner, I can tell you that North Carolina has the lowest average car insurance premiums, not just in the South, but the lowest average car insurance premiums in the country. And guess who isn't happy about that? The insurance companies. They're doing everything they can to persuade the legislature, that's controlled by other folks right now, to get them to change the law because the insurance companies want to charge you more. And I'm saying, heck no. We want to make sure that we protect our pocketbooks, get what we pay for, and have a competitive market. And that's so important to me. It's important to you. We also provide, wearing many hats here, provide Medicare education. If you are on Medicare or know somebody who is on Medicare, I want to make sure that you save money too. This is the only agency that provides Medicare education in our state. And I'm very pleased that, in fact, the last time I was here in this facility, this actual building here, I met with the volunteers of our Seniors Health Insurance Information Program. We have somebody in every county that provides free, unbiased counsel that we certify so you can save money every year on your prescription drug plans. My team has helped bring in 150 businesses over the last couple of years as the insurance commissioner. That means jobs and revenue for our state and for our schools. And every year we receive about 150,000 calls from folks who have questions and concerns. Last thing I want to share with you, because this is something that's been in the news lately. I want to be perfectly clear. I support the Affordable Care Act. I support President Obama. I support making sure that everybody has access to affordable health insurance. What I don't support is Republican legislators and Republican members of Congress that are doing everything in their power to make sure the Affordable Care Act fails. They're doing everything in their power to fight President Obama. And we know why that is. We know it's plain and simple. They said from day one that they were going to fight President Obama. And we know it's about race, and that's wrong. And I'll tell you that I support the Affordable Care Act, and things you may have read lately and seen lately. The bottom line is this, is that because folks in the legislature and folks in Congress who've been trying their level best to fight against President Obama and trying to fight for insurance companies and against the people, they have tried to help make this law, the Affordable Care Act, fail. Because they said, we don't want to have state involvement handed to the feds. We don't want to have, these Republicans didn't want to expand Medicaid. I do. Because they didn't expand Medicaid, it's causing the insurance companies that are here to lose hundreds of millions of dollars. And my concern is, and I shared this with the White House, is that we may have insurance companies that decide they don't want to sell health insurance for our people. That's what the Republicans want to do. They want to make sure that nobody has access to affordable health insurance. With your support, with your continued support, with your vote, and I ask for your vote, again, as I run for a third term, I pledge to you to continue fighting for everybody against the greedy corporate interests and for saving us every dollar that we can. I grew up on a farm in a mobile home, and I've never forgotten how I grew up. And I never will. The other folks in this race, they support the insurance industry. I support you. My name is Wayne Goodwin. I ask for your vote for a third term, and I thank you very, very much for your past support, and I hope that I will continue to have your support, but most of all, your prayers. God bless you. And Kenneth Wilkins from the office here in the back has been a great friend and a great colleague with the Department of Insurance. Thank you, Kenneth, for being here.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to depart from the schedule thing just a bit. State or the Commissioner of Insurance, now is your opportunity. If you have questions.
My name is Kim Council. I'm the president of Pepper County After-Metro Caucus. And one of the issues that we also work on issues as well as political. We work on community issues. And one of our issues that we have, high unemployment. So it means that, given the fact that Medicaid is very limited, we have a lot of people unemployed, so that means they're uninsured. And I understand that the insurance only basically works for folks that can afford some type, and there are actually residents of Fairfield County constituencies that cannot afford it. And so how would you address that issue?
Thank you for that question. I know we chatted briefly just beforehand.
Yeah.
What offends me is that the reason that North Carolina's legislature has not expanded Medicaid, they claim that they say that the Medicaid system is broken. Well, they're hurting people, and they're not fixing Medicaid either. One of the solutions to address your concern is if we expand Medicaid, then more people will be able to have access to health insurance through the Medicaid system that currently earn too much money to be on Medicaid, but not enough money to buy private health insurance. Other states have agreed with the President and the law to expand Medicaid. North Carolina, regrettably, has not. A poll lately showed that 72% approximately of North Carolinians support expanding Medicaid. That would be the first thing that I would do. And, of course, it's not in my authority, but I have pledged to continue fighting with our legislature to change their minds so they will expand Medicaid. Ultimately, I think they will. But every year they wait and don't expand Medicaid, it means that people are not getting health care, and they are getting sick. In some instances, they're dying.
Yeah, Commissioner, I have a question, and it's just a personal thing that happened to me, and I don't know how many other people it may have happened. But just in this last year, I got a big hit on my homeowner's insurance, went up about $1,000 in the year, and then in addition to that, I probably experienced about another $400 a year increase on my auto insurance with no additional risk to the insurance company. Nothing has changed or nothing. I actually got a letter from my insurance company saying if I did not agree to a rate hike, then of course my insurance would be canceled. Could you elaborate on that?
I'm glad you asked that question. I have not approved any rate hikes on car insurance, and also on homeowners insurance right now. The insurance companies are suing me. They wanted to raise rates by 25% across the state on homeowners. I held a hearing, looked at the evidence, I ruled no. They are taking advantage of an exception in the law that says if they send you a letter, sir, that says that we don't agree with the commissioner, we think the rates are not low enough, if you want us to continue, if they're not high enough, if you don't sign this letter, we will drop you. So what they're doing is they're putting people in a corner where they have no choice. Is that, well, I got to have coverage, but if I don't sign this letter, I go without, my bank will be unhappy and the like. They are using an exception to the rule to now that 40% of homeowners in this state have signed one of those letters to bypass the cap that I set as insurance commissioner. We're presently in court, and I'm waiting on the Court of Appeals. This is going to go to the state Supreme Court too. They're either going to decide to support my position, which is that the rate should be lower, or if they support the insurance industry, then that means the rates will be higher. And I hope those judges make the right call. What I encourage you to do is this. Contact my office. I know Kenneth is here, but contact me or my office afterwards. We will look into whether your insurance company followed the rules in taking advantage of that exception or not. If they didn't follow the rules, then we can get it rolled back and you have a lower rate. If they did follow the rules, then it's so important that we work with the legislature to change the law so this loophole isn't blown open any wider. Thank you for your question.
Thank you.
Mr. Goodwin, I've heard this commercial day after day from Nationwide. I see the young lady, she presents a check to her husband that she's had a good driving record, no accidents. So she's gotten this refund check. And I want to know, why is it Nationwide in North Carolina, when you call them, they say, oh, that doesn't pertain to us in North Carolina. If you're Nationwide, that's the name of the insurance company.
Yeah.
So
Here's our own side, too.
Exactly. So why is someone in another state able to get this refund check for the same good driving record you have, but here in North Carolina, you're saying, oh, we don't do that.
Well, and everybody hear the question? There's actually a two-part answer to this. The first part is that You remember I said a while ago we had the lowest average car insurance premiums in the country here? It used to be the only states lower than us were North Dakota, South Dakota, Kansas, Idaho, and Wyoming, states that had, you had to call ahead to have an accident. That sort of thing. Because our rates are so low here, and companies are still competing, but because our rates are so low, many companies have decided not to offer certain discounts. So would you rather have low rates every day, or only have low rates whenever you've had an accident? So that's the first part of the answer. The second one is that I led the way and persuaded the legislature to unanimously change the law to give incentives for our insurance companies to offer more discounts. They can no longer say that they can't offer this particular discount, this one or any other one in North Carolina. They have the opportunity, if they are so willing, to do that. So I guess the short answer is we are blessed that if you don't have access to a discount, it's because the rates are already low so far. And if you do want the discount, if there's a bell or whistle that you really, really want for your circumstances or for your family or for your community, whatever the vehicle is insured for, that you now can get that if the insurance company sends a letter and we review it here in North Carolina. So thank you for that question.
Let me ask you this. Change their name. Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. Do a trailer, a house, my son on a trailer. The man calls us every day. Why you had to call somebody every day for?
Which man you talking about?
21 calls every day. Every day. But you make a payment or not. I had never made a payment. Calls me every day.
Now, is he a collection agent? Or what's he trying to collect?
Yeah, 21.
I'm glad you mentioned this. Secretary of State Marshall and I wear many hats. Our offices do a lot of different things. One of the things that my office is responsible for is that we regulate collection agencies and collection agents. If they are bothering you, if they're hounding you trying to collect on a debt, call my office, contact me.
I sure will.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, we've had people who got hounded so much by collection agents that they paid what they were told, and then we found out that they weren't the ones that owed the money.
Amen.
All right. We have brochures here that are on your table that give you the contact information. They look like, let's see, Kenneth is holding one up in the back. It's a white brochure with a maroon bottom.
Okay.
Call that toll-free number and we will fight for you and go against the man.
Yes, sir.
Do we have any more questions?
Hello? Do we have any more questions?
I ain't never paid him. My son pays it.
Have you got his name and his telephone number?
His ID, tell him that you spoke to the Commissioner of Insurance, and we're going to track him down.
Yes,
Where is he? What's his number? Where's he located?
Secretary Marshall and Commissioner Goodwood, we appreciate so much your coming and sharing with us. Thank you very much, and you can retire and have some fun.
Oh, thank you. Thank you all.
That is the publisher of a newspaper, and I think you have a copy of it. If not, Peter Stenner. He's going to come and talk to you just a few minutes while Dr. Charles is getting stuff set up. Lunch has not arrived yet, so we're going to go into Dr. Charles' presentation. And then by that time, lunch will be here, then we'll eat, and then we'll finish the program for 3. Okay? You come on, I get that out. All right.
Is there a microphone, or can I be heard?
Right here. Right here. Come on. Right there.
Yeah, you're both. All right, good afternoon. My name is Peter Greer, and I'm here by surprise. But I do want to thank Mayor Yates for offering me an opportunity to come before you.
All right, listen up now.
As he indicated, along with my wife, I co-publish Greater Diversity News. And I've been involved in North Carolina politics for the last 40 years. 40 years ago, we got started trying to decide whether or not, as a people, we should have a priority of electing black officials or pursuing economic equity. 40 years ago, we decided to do the political piece, and our economic agenda sort of fell by the wayside. But 40 years later, according to Richard, we have approximately 700 black elected officials, yet the economic equity that we seek for our community still has not arrived. Now, the North Carolina Caucus of Black School Board Members, under the leadership of Dr. Toms, has been conducting a disparity study to try and identify areas where public funds are being spent with companies that really don't do business with black folks. Last month, the Voter Rights Forum was conducted in Greenville. I presided. It was hosted by the Eastern North Carolina Civic Group. And one of the issues we were talking about was voter apathy. And the point that I've made, and the reason I speak about 40 years ago, is because when people realized that black elected officials weren't delivering green power to our communities, a lot of them stopped voting. And if we're going to succeed in November, we've got to persuade our communities that economic equity is a part of what we as black leaders represent. And so what we've done, and we were working together, I knew what Forrest was doing, and all of this is part of what Richard Hooker has been promoting. Forrest has conducted a disparity study of certain political bodies in North Carolina to determine where they're spending their money. The approach I take is simply anybody that depends on a black vote to get elected ought to agree to make economic equity a part of their platform, or we should not vote for them. Period. And periodically, they should report to us. And when I say economic equity, I'm talking about the money that is spent by public bodies. For hiring, our people need to be a part of the job market. For contracts for goods and services. There's a great article in the, I think it's the Portsmouth Pilot, that talks about how Portsmouth has been taken over by black leaders, and it has turned into a racial thing because the companies that have been getting all of the high-dollar contracts weren't sharing the resources with black folk, with black contractors. And now that the black folk have taken over and said we're going to be fair in the way we spend this money, it's a racial problem. Well, I don't necessarily advocate racial property, racial problems, but black folk have been exploited in America for 400 years. 400 years of racial exploitation. And so what we're asking, and I'm going to stop and turn the mic over to Dr. Thompson, is that any candidate that's seeking a vote from you as a black person should agree to create or support the creation of diversity plans by their public body. A diversity plan simply is an outline that says, look, when we spend money on hiring or the contracting for goods and services, we're going to make sure that black folk are considered as a part of the people we spend this money with. No more, no less, and report back to me on a periodic basis so that I know if I'm voting for the right person. Thanks so much, and sorry to ramble, but They caught me by surprise.
We have another person who is here with us this morning, who does not have opposition in the upcoming primary, but wanted to come and greet us. And so, that would state auditor, will in front.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
And thank you for the opportunity to be here today and talk with you. As it was stated, I do not have opposition in the primary. However, the Republicans have recruited someone to run against me in the general election, and I think it's critical. I just want to come this morning and reiterate to all of you, the citizens here, what's at stake with this office. Number one, $21 billion that we all pay into the state of North Carolina to run our state. $10 billion comes into the state every year with state income taxes. Another $5 billion comes into the state in sales taxes that we all pay. And another $1 billion in corporate taxes. Now, all these dollars come in to run our state government. And the state auditor's office is charged with auditing those tax dollars to make sure that your books for the state of North Carolina are in order, because if not, and we send that off to the bond rating agency, we could lose our AAA bond rating, which means we pay the lowest interest rates in the nation. The state of Alaska, there's only 10 states that has a AAA bond rating, and the state of Alaska just lost theirs. North Carolina is one of 9 states that maintains theirs. So the state auditor's office is about auditing your tax dollars to make sure that they're reported properly in their financial statements. We're also responsible for auditing your tax dollars to make sure they're not wasted. We have shown that the Medicaid system that the state of North Carolina put into place to process $13 billion in Medicaid payments, we've just shown before they ever went live with that computer system that it was going to not work well. You think they listened? No. And when that system went live July 1st, 2013, it blew up. It blew up. There were 77,000 providers who were not getting paid for over 6 months. Dentists were going out of business. Doctors were going out of business. The good news is none of our participants in the Medicaid program were affected, but those treating them were. We are now involved in a big Medicaid audit because the Medicaid program is $350 million in the hole. $350 million in the hole. Who do you think is going to make that up? We are. The taxpayers are going to make it up. So the legislature has asked us to go take a look, and they said, whose problem is this? Well, it's another computer system. It's another computer system. The computer system that we put all the information into in the counties, and it determines who's eligible for Medicaid or not. We are finding that the computer system doesn't work right. People that are eligible are being kicked out. People that are not eligible are being allowed. We are finding that the counties were not properly trained. We're finding that the system works so bad that the counties are having to run a second sort of off the chart system in order to keep up with the new system and make sure that things are working right. Hundreds of millions of dollars the state of North Carolina is wasting of our tax money. We are finding that contracting practices in the state of North Carolina, we're letting hospitals write contracts with us. They write them, we sign them, and they take us to the bank. One of our performance audits showed that we were paying the state of North Carolina 5 times more for medical services for prisoners. When they go out into a hospital, we're paying 5 times more than Medicaid or Medicare pays for the exact same services. Now, when I did that audit, my mama was on Medicare. And Medicare was not paying for some services for my mama that the state was paying for prisoners. So now you got prisoners getting better care than my own mom. But these are the kinds of audits that the state auditor's office is doing under my administration. I grew up on a farm in Route 1 Cove City. People say, where is that? And I say, it's near Newburgh. And they say, well, why don't you say you're from Newburgh? I said, because I ain't. I'm from Route 1 Cove City. I grew up on a farm. I remember the days coming up where you only got 2 pairs of shoes, one for church and one for school. And you better not get them mixed up. You better not get them mixed up. So I know, and then I am a product of the state's system that works like it's supposed to. I went to public schools. I left there. I went to high school, community college, at Wayne Community College. I was a dental hygienist. I scraped teeth for 10 years. I used that education, went back to school at East Carolina University and got my accounting degree. Now think about this. Our community college system is so good, that all of my courses, from the dental hygiene now, the math, the English, the biology, the chemistry, all of that transferred into East Carolina University. And I went into that university a half a semester short of being a junior. A junior, I didn't have to start all over. I was 29 years old. I was too old to start over. I am a product of our school system, our community college system, our university system. This poor, barefooted, Route 1 Cove City farm girl, and she's now the state auditor of North Carolina. I know how the average taxpayer, the things they go through, and I'm watching over our tax dollars to make sure that the state's financial statements are accurate when they go to the bond rating agency, to make sure that we're performing performance audits, to make sure our dollars are not wasted. We have had more laws changed. We have had more what I call practical audits done, not pie in the sky stuff, not if the sun and the moon and the stars and Jupiter and the earth and everything all lined up, this would be a great thing to do. We're putting out audits that's showing how our tax dollars are being wasted and recommendations on what we can do differently. Because here's the other piece that's important. It's a huge trickle-down effect. You know, I said there's $21 billion that it takes to run our state government. $8 billion of that, over $8 billion, goes to our K through 12 public school system. Over $8 billion. Another $3 billion goes into our university system, and another $1 billion plus goes into our community college system. That's $12 billion of the $21 billion that runs through the state of North Carolina and our tax dollars. So, when they run out of money, where's the first place they look? To the education system. And why? Because it's the biggest pot of money. It takes $16 million to run my office. Okay? If you did away with my office, that's just the drop in the bucket for a $21 billion budget. But if you've got $12 billion sitting over here in education, you can go get a lot of money out of there. So it's a trickle-down effect. When monies are wasted, when monies are misspent, they're going to jump to the biggest pot of money, and that's our education money. So my job is to constantly put out how our tax dollars are being spent. So where they're being wasted, it can be fixed. And again, I have promised agency heads, General Assembly, your representatives, your senators, your governor, irrefutable findings. If I put it in a report, nobody can argue with me because I've got all the facts, not pieces and parts. I've got all the facts. And let me tell you, in 7 years in office, nobody nobody has proven any one of my audits wrong. Might try to argue with me, but I say, bring me the evidence that shows me I'm wrong. And they'll go away. And they can't. And they still try to argue with me anyway. So I put it in writing. I asked for the evidence. They couldn't produce it. I must be right. I must be right. Your tax dollars. The question is simple. Who do you want watching over your tax dollars? I am a CPA. I've audited cities, counties, large not-for-profits. I have taught CPAs across our nation how to audit federal dollars, how to audit state dollars. I have taught CPAs across our nation the checks and balances that need to be in place for watching over our tax dollars. I've taught CPAs across the nation statistical sampling, internal controls. I am the person for this job. I tell people all the time, I am a CPA. And people ask me, they say, will you do my tax returns? And I say, I'll be glad to if you want to go to jail. I cannot do a tax return. I'm a CPA, but I can't do a tax return. My expertise is in governmental auditing and accounting, watching out for our tax dollars. I need your support to get back into office and to continue watching out for our tax dollars. I apologize this morning for being late. Whoever gave me the address gave me West Boulevard. I've been down around the hospital looking for y'all for 45 minutes. And look at y'all at the hospital. Been in the hospital, been around the hospital, went on top of the hospital. Y'all ain't there. Y'all here. Thank you so much for allowing me to come and speak to you this morning, and thank you so much for allowing me to step in and be back here. The question is, the North Carolina bond is coming up, and would I recommend the voters pass it? I run a nonpartisan office, and I stay out of politics. So as a state auditor, I can't tell you what to do. Beth Wood, the citizen, I am going to vote for them personally. And here's the reason. These bonds are at a low interest rate, and something that our state has not taken care of is a lot of infrastructure for a lot of years. And our universities are in dire, dire need of money. I was at East Carolina, I was at a Give a Kid a Smile Day. Some of the dentists in Greenville bring a bunch of kids together and they give them dental treatment for free. And the dean of the dental school was there. Every university has been slated in this bond to get some money and to put it into a particular place. So all of our universities are getting something, and none of them are getting something for more than one thing. So they kind of laid it out there, and I'm on the debt affordability committee with the state treasurer, and we've looked at what this bond would do for us that we're voting on. We will be able to vote and pass these bonds, borrow this money, and we will still be able to maintain our triple-A bond rate. So our committee looks at what is a safe level of borrowing for the state of North Carolina so that we don't get in trouble with our bond rating. And we're going to be well below that ceiling even with those bonds in November. So because of the need, because it's just not been given out willy-nilly and anybody can do anything they want to with it, it has been slated for our universities. We will not go over the ceiling that puts us in trouble for losing our AAA bond rating. Because of that, Beth Wood, the citizen, is going to vote for the bond.
Elizabeth City State University will get $13 million out of that bond. Yes, 13 million.
That's a big shot in the arm. That's a big shot in the arm.
Okay. Do we have any other questions?
Willie Riddick, my name is Berkeley County. I want to ask you, when you came in office 7 years ago, what was the state budget then? I think it says $21 billion now. Obviously, there's been a lot of cutting. And what was the state education budget then? and what is it now in terms of percentage?
I do not know the answers to those questions. I do know that I say a $21 billion budget. We're a little less than $21 billion now. There have been cuts. We were probably about $22 billion back when I came into office. When I came into office, we had a $22 billion budget, and we had a $5 billion shortfall, meaning we had $5 billion more projected expenses than we knew where the revenue was coming from. But I'm sorry, I don't know the education numbers. It's in my audit. Those numbers are there. I apologize. I do not know those numbers.
Can you throw out of the budget, the $21 billion, you said education? Because I'm thinking at some point in time, I think some years back when I was involved working, I know he used to say it was around 7% of the budget was going towards education. And then prison was a large category, and then I can't remember. What are those big categories now we left in the budget?
Of the $21 billion,
Yes.
there's 8 plus going in K through 12. There's 3 going into the university system, and there's over $1 billion. So not quite half of our budget is K through 12, but over half the budget is K through 16. Thank you. K through 16. Over half the budget. And your other expenditures, the next one in line is Medicaid. For every dollar we pay in Medicaid services, 65 cents comes from the federal government. 35 cents comes from our dollars. So when you're looking at the $21 billion, K through 12 is 8, universities 3, community colleges 1, Medicaid is 4. DOT is about 2 or 3-ish. Also, we have another, now the $21 billion our state dollars, another $21 billion coming from federal government. That's Medicaid, it's food stamps, it's money for clean water and air, it's money to build our highways, to build our bridges. Another $4 billion goes into public education, K through 12. Okay? Another couple of billion goes into the university and the community college system. So you got state money, 8, 3, and 1, and then you've got federal money, another $4 billion going into public education, K through 12.
Thank you.
My name is Frank Norman. I'm from Queens County, but I keep track of Queens, Chihuahua, and Pasco Tank. How has the state, I know we're North Carolina's an open state as far as being able to be and look at any information that's out there, but how has the lottery impacted positively? We see the money going in, but I'm quite sure all of us have educational issues in our community, and we see the amount of money that we know is going in. It doesn't seem like the proper allocation is coming back out. Is that part of what you also audit? Did that information go in through your department?
What we audit for that perspective is all the monies that come into the lottery, only about 48% goes into education. The rest of it goes in advertisement, it goes back in payouts, it goes back in administration. But I think a lot of us, when the lottery was being put in place, thought it was going to be a higher percentage that would go into education, but it started out, I think, at 50-51%, and now it's about 48-49%. But the law that was written and passed stated what percentage would go to education, and I think now it's left. And so what I audit is to make sure all the money that came into the lottery, that the 49% that was supposed to went to DPI.
Goodwood, from your perspective, is our state justified in how it's spending Medicaid?
Is our state justified? Early on, when this new computer system was coming into play, we had 1.5 million participants in the Medicaid program at that time. With 1.5 million participants, the system blew up And I don't know what would have happened if we'd had another 500,000. However, we are 4 years later, and supposedly most of those bugs have been worked out, so there's no reason not to expand Medicaid at this point in time.
You mentioned something about the water, the state. Okay, how is that allocated? I'm not. Could you give me a little clarification on that?
Those monies, she's talking about the clean water grants. Those monies come into the state, into either, well, in that case, they come into Diener. And then counties, businesses or whatever will make applications for those grants. And then they get awarded through Diener. And so it's a process like that. We make sure in our audits that the monies were spent for the intended purpose. But again, the grant process, the allocation process is done through Diener.
Okay, Mark, did you have a question? This will be our last question.
My name is Carolyn. I hear you projecting a lot of issues on the budget and whatnot, and then you say, I'm not politically involved. How can you circumvent all of these problems with the budget and fixing it without being politically involved? It sounds like you might be like a one-woman band. I mean, you do need that support around you. So how, I mean, not being politically involved, that's a really tough
I would agree with that statement. When I say I'm not involved, number one, I don't make policy. So I don't vote on things that make policy. To privatize, to let the agencies do everything, to do a combination of public and private partnerships, I'm not involved in any policies like that. But we go out and we look for where there may be wasteful spending. And we look for areas that might result in a lot of savings or stopping a lot of wasteful spending. And when I say I'm not political, it doesn't matter to me where the issues fall. If it shows wasteful spending, we will report it, and I can't help which side of the aisle it falls on. I am a CPA. I'm supposed to be objective, so I don't take, I've been asked, well, can't you go audit this and make it look like blah, blah? I could.
That's metal.
But I won't.
Okay.
But I won't. I'm going to go look at an issue. We have issues, and we will go look at them. And wherever the information falls out, that's what I've got to report. I can't sweep it under the rug. I can't soften it up. I can't, because if I do, our problems never get fixed. Now, put that information out there. Y'all got to make sure that the right people are sitting in the General Assembly and the governor's office to take my information and make it happen. The state auditor's office can look at anything. Nobody can stop me from looking at records, talking to people. You can line up all the lawyers you want to, but you can't stop me. But when it comes time to fixing things, I have no authority at all.
And what is our bond rating here in North Carolina?
We're a triple A.
That's good.
That's the best you can have, which means the top 3 bond rating agencies, all 3 of them, that's why you get the triple A, all 3 of them have given us a triple A bond rating, which means we get the lowest interest rates that you can. Think about the $2 billion bonds that are getting ready to happen. If we didn't have that triple A bond rating, we'd be paying a lot higher interest on that. We have got to make sure we hang on to that triple.
Yes, our bond rating is very important.
And like I said, Alaska just lost theirs about 3 weeks ago. They just lost theirs, and it takes a lot to get back.
Thank you very much, Ms. Wood.
Thank you all so much.
Civic is on its way. It'll be here shortly. We're going to have this presentation, and then we hope it'll be here by then.
Okay. Good morning. Good morning. Evening. Afternoon. My name is Forrest Toms, and I'm an associate professor in the Leadership Studies program at North Carolina A&T State University. It's a PhD program. We probably got about 105 students in there right now. Probably produced about 21 PhDs in the last 7 years. This report that I'm going to present to you is based on a partnership that the North Carolina A&T State University Department of Leadership Studies had with the Alliance of Black Elected Officials, North Carolina Caucus of Black School Board, with the alliance being under the leadership of Richard Hooker. Hooker and I have been working on some stuff for a long time. We work with the caucus, also looking at issues affecting African Americans and other kids in the school system. One of the things that I've always tried to do, I'm a developmental psychologist by training, and a big community engagement background. Last year we produced a book called Lead the Way, Principles and Practices of Community and Civic Engagement. And one of the core pieces in there was looking at this thing about how do we connect the university and the community, and in a sense, you know, it's a simple thing. How do we identify and cultivate talent? It's a big one. Part of that whole frame, identification, cultivation, talent, came through this project. I had a group of PhD students that I worked with the Alliance with. We pulled them together, and we asked them to do research on a couple of different things. And number one was this whole notion of historically underutilized businesses. We wanted to look at the fact how, to what extent are African Americans and minority business being utilized in this hub data. So I got them to look at the top 10 cities with the highest number of African Americans in it, okay, by population. Then I got them to look at the top 10 cities with the highest percentage of African Americans, which pretty much were all down east, right here, okay? And we got them to look at not only goods and services, but also construction. And we looked at it across public schools, community colleges, state universities. Okay, so we looked at it across those. And what I want to do is kind of go over this quickly with you. So this is one part of it. This is the PowerPoint, but we've also produced something called the guide. And understanding how you want to be looking at stuff and listening, and you know, you can't do both at the same time real good. I'm going to keep this. Okay, and I'll give it to you so you'll have something. I want you to get focused, because being elected officials in a position to have an impact on the policy and decision making. We've had our last couple of presenters up here that started connecting the economic dots with the policy dots. And I'm saying, when Mr. Hooker told you earlier today that we're what, second in the country in terms of the largest number of African American elected officials? When you start to see this data and see what is coming out in terms of how monies and our policy are being made, how decisions are being made to distribute dollars, and even though we have the highest percentage in the counties and even more people represented on city council, county commission, school board, it's abysmal the amount of money that's being distributed, and we don't even know about it. It's an amazing thing. So I'm going to go through this, and then I'm going to put up there this thing called the guide. That's what this is, and I think the Alliance is going to put that online along with some other things. We're finishing up 2 articles right now that I'm sending for publication. Because we got to document this, and to me, as I propose that the bond is coming up, and you got these dollars coming out again, and the question becomes what percentage of those dollars will be going to African American businesses and minority businesses? That's the question. All right, so I'm gonna hit this first and we'll just go through it. As you see here, okay, get my fine motor skills together this morning. I had too many cups of coffee, okay? If you look at this right here, you see here, here's our goal. The baseline for hub participation is 10%. The notion is that all universities, all public institutions, that 10% of your dollars should be able to go to minority businesses. That's the baseline. We see an uneven distribution. Yeah, you might hit this one up here, it might be better. There you go. Yeah. An uneven distribution. Women-owned businesses receive greater than 60% of the hub purchasing goods versus black businesses receiving less than 20%. And you look at this whole notion we need to deconstruct. We basically have white female businesses that account for over 55% of the hub construction dollars. I want you to understand, you got to make a distinction between goods and services, toilet paper, paper towels, forks, you can go on, and construction. We're not doing too bad construction-wise when you look at it because such a big push has been pushed on construction. But goods and services, there's a major gap there. As I said, the whole scope and mission of this research was to analyze and synthesize the data and put it in some kind of way that we could put it in people's hands so they could use it from a decision-making point of view. I won't go over all this methodology. That's some of that research stuff we're going to have to get into. But basically, we took almost a year of the students pulling this stuff together and going back and forth and getting people to look at it in particular, make sure that we did not have any false data there. So what you see here is the top 10 counties percent of black and white here with the highest African American population. You look up there, you see Mecklenburg. The percent black is in the light green. 31, and then you have percent non-white. That's going to be interesting because as we go through and point out the data, you'll see the percent black, non-white kind of all the way through. And these are just the top 10 with the highest minority population. Now, top 10 counties with the highest percentage. And look at those counties. Look at the bottom. Yep, Bertie, Hertford, Northampton, Ashland. Okay? So you look again, the light green, that's the total population. The white there, you see the blue is the white, and then the pink is African American. And that's the percentages that we're talking about there in terms of population.
Chair of the North Carolina Alliance of Black Elected Officials. I was there from the beginning in 2005. When Moses Perry sat down with us and said we needed to form this organization. And at the time, I served as the only female on that body for quite some time. But I wasn't quiet. I made sure I tried to keep those men in line. You know, it takes a good woman to keep good men in line. So as part of the North Carolina Alliance of Black Elected Officials, I need some more good women to come aboard and help keep these gentlemen in line. But anyway, the Alliance will be having the North Carolina Black Summit, April the 21st through the 23rd. So I wanted to make sure that you went ahead and put that on your calendar so that you could plan around your vacations, all of your visits to other states that you have to do, to make sure that you can be in Raleigh, April 21st through the 23rd. Now, the information for the guide that it had on the back for your addresses, everybody please fill one of those out. Because if you fill that out and turn it in, not only to give us the opportunity to make sure that you have access to that guide, but that you get an opportunity to get your registration done on time. Which means I will make sure that I personally email that information to each and every one of you so that you can make your reservation at the hotel, so that you can get your plans in order to be there for the Black Summit. It's going to take all of us to make any change. And from what I've heard today, there's a lot of change being made, but there are also a lot of change makers in this room. Amen. So I want to make sure that every branch the North Carolina Commissioners, which I'm a part of for the last 15 years, all of our municipalities, school board members. If you're just an interested person in black affairs, you need to be at this summit. Because we're going to talk about education, we're going to talk about public safety, and we need all of you to be at the table to make sure that we hear all the issues and that we can get back to our small, large, middle-sized communities. So that's April 21st through the 23rd. Please pencil it in. And please make sure you turn in that form on the back of that guide so that we can be in touch with you. And I guarantee now, if you don't come, it won't be because you didn't get the invitation, so that you had time to ask your board to pay your registration. Some boards may not pay your registration and you have to pay it yourself. But you should want to know this information enough that you would be willing to write your own check. Okay? So in Raleigh, I'm going to try to see if we have one of the brochures with him. But we want to make sure that we get the save date card after you next week.
What's the registration fee and what hotel?
The registration fee is $139, and we're going to be at the new Hilton Garden Inn in Raleigh.
And Crabtree.
But it's a new hotel, new facility. It's beautiful, and we would like to fill it up so they understand that we got real money and we're ready to spend some of it.
Hey, he's up there on that chart. That's real money.
That's real money.
Oh, that money. Good Lord.
I'm eating candy now. They ain't got no business with it. But we got a young lady here that wants to make an announcement right quick. And we're going to allow her a couple of minutes.
Miss, please.
Get back from Martin County, raise your hand. From Martin County, raise your hand. We want to thank you for hosting this meeting. Before I forget it, Ms. Gray been a member from the beginning of the Eastern Civic Group. She was one of the groundbreakers and been there. And believe this, she don't drive, but she don't miss a meeting either.
And I've always salad something for some cause. I'd rather help a child go to school, this money goes for scholarship, than to help them stay in prison. It's cheaper to send them to school. Today I'm sending kids for $200.
That's why I got my kids.
Good afternoon, everyone. If I can have your attention, I'll be before you briefly. I stand here as Minister Mercedes Forney, Executive Secretary for the Democratic Party Executive Body for Martin County. And I do have colleagues here. I have Ms. Sandra McCleary, our treasurer, and also Ms. Lois Green, the second vice. I stand here because we have a fundraiser banquet on March the 19th. And with surrounding counties, we ask for your support. It is only $30. So we do ask that if you need a ticket, bring your husband, your friend, your spouse, your significant others. Some of you, I've given out my card, and you have my number. Just contact me or the treasurer, Ms. Sandra McCleary. We would love to have you at our gathering. And also for other districts, you all can contact us because we need to support one another. As you know, numbers are so important. So we do ask on March the 19th that you schedule yourself to be in the beautiful city of Williamston, North Carolina, at the Senator Bob Martin Center. And the event starts at 7 o'clock. At 7 o'clock? 6 o'clock. And so tickets are $30. So you can see either Sandra McCleary, you can see second vice, Ms. Lois Green, any other members, I think that's all here, or you can see me. God bless you all and continue to enjoy the conference. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. March the 19th.
respected U.S. Senator, and we're going to provide her an opportunity now to address us. We have with us Ms. Deborah Ross, and she's going to speak to us.
Okay, and is there a time limit?
Okay.
Oh, 5 minutes, okay. Well, that's good. You guys are more generous than other people. Well, thank you so much for letting me be with you today. I'm sorry I was not here earlier in the morning, but I had my interview with the teachers. And the teachers, you know, they tell you when you have to be there, and so I don't want to cross the teachers. But we got here as quickly as we could. Again, my name is Deborah Ross, and I am a lawyer and a former legislator, and I live in Raleigh. I do, on my staff, though, have 2 staff members from this area. One is from Williamston, and one is from Ahoskie. And my political director, L.T. McCrimmon, who's walking around here, is from Scotland County. So we have definitely included small town North Carolina in our Senate campaign, and my staff is terrific. I'll start at the beginning and tell you that I'm the daughter of a dad. My dad is a doctor, and he was in the Air Force during the Vietnam era. We lived in Nebraska when I was in the kindergarten, and my mom is a preschool teacher. So before we had Smart Start and More at 4, my mom was teaching preschool. She also has been very politically active. She was active with the League of Women Voters. And she's a big reason that I got involved in politics. We used to go door to door to get out the vote, and we went door to raise money for poor kids to be able to go to college for something called the Scholarship Foundation. And so she put that love of community and love of politics into me. I have 2 brothers, and we're all very active in our communities. I've practiced law for 25 years here in North Carolina, and I've practiced law from Murphy to Manteo. So I've worked on infrastructure projects like building water and sewer systems, and building schools, building mass transit systems. But many of you know me because in the mid-90s, I did civil rights work also from Murphy to Manteo for the Civil Liberties Union. And when I was with the Civil Liberties Union, I worked on getting the strongest racial profiling law in the country. I did that work with Ronnie Sutton from Robeson County and Frank Balance from Warren County. They were the sponsors of that bill. I also worked on getting the DNA innocence law passed when I was with the Civil Liberties Union. And that has freed people who were wrongly convicted from our prison system. And this was kind of a fun one. I worked on insurance covering contraception. And so in the mid-90s, I don't know if you all remember the Viagra craze, right? Insurance was covering Viagra, but it wasn't covering contraception. And so we worked with a bipartisan coalition to make insurance have to do that. That was before we had the Affordable Care Act. So those were some of the things I worked on. I also worked on racial gerrymandering cases, and I'm thrilled that the Fourth Circuit has sided with the people of North Carolina and has said that we need to make sure that we have fairer districts and that things were not done correctly. In the legislature, I served in the legislature from 2003 to 2013. I chaired the Judiciary Committee, I chaired the Ethics Committee, and I chaired the Election Laws Committee. One of the bills that I'm most proud of that I got passed when I was there was the same-day voter registration law. And so it took me 3 sessions to get that law passed. But in 2008, 100,000 people used the same-day voter registration law. And we're still fighting in court. I think we're going to win to have that taken care of. I also worked on an intermodal transportation law to help bring public transit and have local governments have more control over their public transit. I worked on a comprehensive domestic violence law that has made families safer in North Carolina. And we worked on that. The women got together, and we insisted on having a domestic violence study committee. In this race,
The number one issue that I'm working on is economic security and opportunity for every generation. And it provides the strongest contrast between me and the real opponent, Richard Burr. Ever since the Great Recession, we have seen even more economic struggles. So for the youngest generation, we need to make sure that they go to school ready to learn, and that when they graduate from high school, if they want to go on to higher education, that there's a good community college, that there's a Pell Grant available, that they don't have crushing student loan debt. The federal government does the Head Start program. They fund the Head Start program. I will be pushing to keep that program and make it even more beneficial for our young people. But also for our smart kids who cannot afford, who do not have families that can pay for them to go to college. We need to have lower student interest rates, more Pell Grants, and more access to our community college and higher education system. And in North Carolina, we have a great history of public higher education, but we also have a wonderful history of private HBCUs and private colleges. We want all of those institutions to thrive and our children to be able to go there. For their parents, raise the minimum wage, equal pay for women, and I will protect your Medicare and Social Security. Thank you very much. I'm Deborah Ross. Please vote for me March 15th and November 8th. Questions? Any questions or just speak? Oh, okay. Questions? Yeah. No questions?
Thank you, Ms. Ross.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
All right, we're ready for the show to start.
Ladies and gentlemen, we now have the candidates here for running for North Carolina governor. We have the General Cooper, Mr. Ken Spaulding, and Mr. Kenneth Moss. Gentlemen, if all of you would take one of those photos right in front of us. See by the photos that you've taken, Mr. Spaulding, you'll be first to respond to the question that's there, number one.
Good afternoon, I'm Ken Spaulding. How are you?
Good afternoon.
Good to be here with you. Just so you know my background, I'm a former state representative, served 6 years in the State House of Representatives. Was appointed by Governor Easley to serve on the State Board of Transportation, where I served 4 years. I've been out of politics for 30 years, working hard, a lawyer, representing clients, and working so hard that I've helped to bring over $2 billion of economic investment into North Carolina, and have been able to help create thousands of jobs here in North Carolina. The same thing that I want to do in the eastern part of North Carolina and the far western part of North Carolina. Economic growth, development, jobs, and education. So what I've done during this time in trying to make sure as well that in the particular proposals I've had and projects, I've made sure that we've had a minority component, a component in which we have minority participation. I feel that's important because we are all North Carolinians together. And in the process of being all North Carolinians together, what we have to do is work together and find a way to not have all of this divisiveness that we've had across this state. And I think, it's just so fortunate to be here at Black History Month, to be here with you, to be able to shoot where you can see firsthand what our parents and their parents fought for, lived for, died for, bled for. Equal opportunity to serve. And that's what I'm seeking to do, to have an equal opportunity to serve the people of this state. You know, when we've been fortunate and had an opportunity ourselves and been successful, why can't we give back to our communities? And that's what I'm trying to do at this time. That's what I've tried to do with minority components of what I've tried to get our minority and non-minority community employed, good education and jobs. HBCUs. I just want to mention about that. I'm a graduate of HBCU, and I'm proud of it. And we've got to have a governor who's going to fight hard to make sure that they do not try to close our HBCUs. Look in your paper this morning. Look in your newspaper this morning. You will see where the Senate is already planning to find a way to be able to gradually sort of move our HBCUs out. I also want to talk about more than that, I just want to talk about education in North Carolina. As I said, I'm an HBCU graduate. As I've gone all over eastern North Carolina, you all have shared with me the importance of the fact that your children, so often, after graduating from high school, they go off to the city to go to school. But then they don't come back home because there are no jobs, no opportunities here. So see, I've been listening to you over these last 2 years and 4 months that I've been running to be your governor. I've been listening to you and been listening and hearing about all kinds of things, including Wi-Fi, why we don't have Wi-Fi in certain areas. So I just want to say that I've spent my 2 years and 4 months crisscrossing eastern North Carolina, listening to you, the people, and some of you in this room, you have seen me working hard every day to be able to have just an opportunity to serve you.
Thank you.
Yes. I'm Roy Cooper. I grew up in eastern North Carolina. Grew up in Nashville, not too far down the road from here. My mom and dad put me out in the tobacco patch very early in my life. I cropped tobacco and picked cucumbers and worked very hard all the way up until I went to college. And when I became Attorney General, I kidded my parents that they had violated numerous child labor laws, but they taught me about dedication and they taught me about hard work. I'm a product of the public schools. My parents were. My mom was a public school teacher. And I go a lot of places in North Carolina, and every once in a while somebody will come up to me and say, I want to pay you a compliment. And I think they're going to tell me I'm doing a good job as Attorney General, but they'll say, your mama was the best teacher I ever had. That shows you the power of public education and the difference that one person can make. Now, when I went to school at Chapel Hill, undergrad and law school, I came back here. I came back to Rocky Mount. And I practiced law for 18 years, and I helped everyday people. I also decided I wanted to go to the legislature to make a difference. So for 14 years, I represented eastern North Carolina in the North Carolina legislature, fighting for children's health insurance. I wrote the children's health insurance law that we pushed through. Fighting for Smart Start, because every child ought to have an equal chance when they start to school. Fought for better teacher pay. And now as Attorney General, I'm fighting for everyday people versus the car manufacturers, the pharmaceutical manufacturers, the big banks. We've been able to eliminate payday lending. We're working hard to protect everyday consumers. Now I'm running for governor because I'm tired of this crowd in Raleigh. I think Governor McCrory and the Republican leadership are sending us off the track. We've got to get things right again. I'm running for governor because I want a North Carolina that works for everybody, not just a select few. What you are seeing in Raleigh now is Governor McCrory and his friends doing corporate tax giveaways and tax cuts for the elite, but making it harder and more expensive for everybody else. People are working longer and harder and making less money. They're doing the corporate tax giveaways, and then you turn right around, they eliminate the earned income tax credit, which hurts everyday working people. They expand the sales tax, so now when that hard-working person has to go in and get the car repaired, they're going to have to pay more. That's the wrong priorities for North Carolina. We got to get us headed back in the right direction. I know the special challenges of Eastern North Carolina, and I look forward to talking with you about these as the forum continues. Thank you.
I got here pretty early and I sat in, heard a lot of what was being said about black minorities being deprived of job opportunities, contracts, and everything else. I've been in politics 30 years. I'm writing a book right now, and it's probably a bestseller because I can tell you some stuff that'll curl your ears.
Speak up, please.
All right. I'm Charles Moss. I'm from Randleman, North Carolina. I was elected Soil and Water Conservation Supervisor in Randolph County in 2000. Defeated an incumbent. I was a Democrat then. I defeated a Republican incumbent because she got in the newspaper the day before election and said that I had no idea about what I was doing. And they asked her, well, what is the job? And they found out she didn't know what the job was. You know, so it kind of backfired on her. And I ran as a Democrat against Jerry Tillman for Senate, and he kind of didn't pay any attention to me. He was senator already. He beat me by 500 votes in Montgomery County when they counted votes. And he had to come down there. The chief of police in Star and me were standing outside at midnight at the police headquarters. He's a friend of mine. Jerry and some of his helpers are running up down the street trying to put up signs a day before the election because he had not been in the county in over a year. But yet he was representing this county, a heavily Democrat county. Well, you say, why am I Republican now? It's because I'm also a preacher. And here is the bad news. I preach to politicians. McCrory goes to Belts and gets $400 suits, which I'm a realtor also. I own a real estate company. The realtors made me put $50 in the pot, in the pack, and he goes down, I find out he goes down and eats $400 suits, and he goes and eats, every meal he eats $56 something, fills up the gas tank on his campaign money 2 times. He leases a jet to go to the National Governors Conference, $17,000 there, $17,000 back, and I don't know who went with him, but it must have been a pretty big deal. Good. But what I'm saying is, I agree with Cooper and him. We need to get rid of this governor. I'm telling him like it is. He needs to go home. I feel like he needs to go home. All right? They've been passing the word around. You know, Moss was in the 10th grade 3 years. 3 years. You know? And it's true. It's true. Because when I was coming up,
yes, sir,
Mama had 3 young ones.
Yes.
And we lived out of the woods.
Yes, sir.
I had dropped out of school because my 2 brothers could stay in school. All right? And then I went in the Air Force. I was in the Air Force 4 years and 2 years reserve. I flew. Incidentally, I'm against all these turbine fans to be putting down here on the coast because during the you run out of time? Okay.
Mr. Fowler, if you would look at your folder there at question number 2.
I'm the him he was talking about.
I need to read the question so we can all hear it. Number 2 says the North Carolina General Assembly adopted changes to the state's election laws regarding same-day registration, early voting, out-of-precinct voting, photo ID, and others. The judge will soon rule on some of these changes. What's your opinion on the proposed changes?
I'm very much opposed to the changes, and I want to tell you why. I think they're quite unconstitutional, period. And I want to say there's a disagreement. I'll say it nice and be polite. There's a disagreement between me and the Attorney General. We both graduated from the same law school together. But I feel that these laws are unconstitutional. And when you swear the oath on the Bible to follow the Constitution of the United States and not go along with any laws inconsistent thereto, that means something. And when you're elected individually by the people, that means something. And so I cannot understand how our Attorney General is sitting in court on the same side with the Republicans supporting these laws. His office. They're doing that. Part of my role is to explain to people what's going on in North Carolina as I see it. He explains how he sees it. If we could have a debate, we could have an opportunity for the entire state to see where we stand on these issues. And so I want to say, to me, that I feel, and what I would have done if I were the Attorney General, I would have gone into court and gotten the constitutionality of these laws, gotten them tested immediately, and not gone along with being on the same side against the NAACP, the League of Women Voters, and then saying my job made me do it. Your job does not make you do it if what you're doing is going along with unconstitutional laws. As I said, we graduated from the same law school together. I've practiced law longer than he has, but at the same time, I think that this is a debate that we need to have in North Carolina, because I want to make sure that whenever you cast a vote having the full knowledge of all the facts in front of you. And that's why I would hope we could have a debate to be able to deal with these issues, and I try to say this as respectfully as I can, but at the same time, I know about marching for voting rights. I was there. I grew up, I was raised in segregation here in North Carolina. I know people who gave their lives and died for the opportunity for us to vote. So it's not a plaything, not a plaything with me. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. In 2008, we know who was elected president. And I think we know what has happened since then is that people have worked at the top. Governor McCrory and the Republican leadership have worked to make it harder for people to register and vote. And not only has that happened in North Carolina, but that has happened across the country. I believe that we need to change these laws and make it a lot easier for people to register and vote. I was one of the ones who pushed changes to make it better. We used to be in the 40s in the country in voter turnout, but we moved up to number 12 in the country in 2008 because we did things like same-day registration, which I supported. We did things like expanding early voting. We did things like making sure that young people, 16 and 17-year-olds, can pre-register to vote, and making sure we have ballot boxes on college campuses, and expanding the opportunity. When these laws were passed by the General Assembly, I wrote a letter to Governor McCrory urging him to veto these, worked on a petition drive, pushed and pushed to make sure these laws did not pass. They passed anyway. Now, what I have been working to do since then is to make sure that we get good people elected so that we can change these laws and not only go back to where we were, but expand it. You should be able to register online. This is an important right. Now, this office, the Office of Attorney General, under the law, and most every lawyer agrees with this, is charged with defending the state of North Carolina when it gets sued. Now, my office has had to defend a lot of legislation that has been passed by this General Assembly because that is the duty under the law. However, I have stood up and I have said I am opposed to these laws. I want to change them. We need somebody in Raleigh who is in the governor's chair who can get these things done. And I'm getting support all over this state from people like Harvey Gantt, who has endorsed my campaign. House Minority Leader Larry Hall, who has endorsed my campaign. Senator Floyd McKissick has endorsed my campaign. We've got strong support all over this state because they know that when I get to Raleigh, I'm going to protect people's right to vote, and not only that, I'm going to work to expand it because it is critical that we have as many people as possible going to the polls and making sure that they exercise their right to vote, and I ask for your support.
Mr. Long.
Well, I don't see why any of it was necessary, period. Every time I was down there filing at the election office, and here come a fellow looked like he's about 30 years old, and he said, well, I'm going to file for the Senate. He says, I got out of law school a couple years ago, and we need some laws. What we need is people down there to get rid of some laws. We need to elect people. The Republicans do a whisper campaign. They say, Charles is 97 years old. See? I'm 97 years old. See? I'm actually 77. But time 97. And then they say he can't hear, and that's true, he can't hear out of the right ear. And he can't see, you know.
Bless the Lord.
But what I'm saying is that every time they get down there, they got to meddle in something. They can't be satisfied. The Republicans is the worst ones in the world to say, I'm going to cut taxes and then build a new building. Yeah. Everybody got to have a new courthouse, got to have this, got to have that. But yet, who pays for it? It's not the corporation because they got the big tax cut. It's us. When I filed, my filing fee was my Social Security check. And I got home, my wife said, what'd you do? I said, I filed for governor again this second time. Where'd you get the money? I said, Social Security check. I don't take contributions, period. I took a contribution one time from a Democratic group for $500 the day before election, and they come to me that night and said, would you get a newspaper read? I said, no, I bought more signs. And they just had a fit and wanted their money back. I said, well, man-made signs, they belong to you, you know. But, yeah, we've got, in my opinion, you ought not be able to be a legislator, senator, or a House of Representatives if you're not 50 years old. Because you're still wet behind your ears. You don't know what you're doing. And you've been brainwashed.
Thank you. Each of you gentlemen will have a minute for a closing statement. Get the mic.
Let me just say this. My closing statement is this very clearly. I'm going to do everything I can not to let the clock be turned back here in North Carolina by the Republicans. Amen. I'm going to fight in every way that I can to do that. You know, some people have said, well, you know, a black can't win governor. Well, they said about, and please don't forget, they said this about Barack Obama. A black can't win North Carolina, the primary, and he did, and the general election, and he did. They said the same thing about our justice on the Supreme Court, Sherry Beasley. A black can't win that Supreme Court justice position. She won that statewide office. They said the same thing about Ralph Campbell, state auditor. He couldn't win, and he won a statewide position. Ken Spaulding can win a statewide position if I'm right on the issues and if I reach out to the people. That's what I've been doing for 2 years and 4 months, working myself to the bone, going across this state seeking the support of the people. Not the politicians, not the former politicians, but the people of this state. You, the people of this state. That's who I've been working for. That's what I've been giving my all to. Thank you.
Thank you.
One of the things I know is that after this March primary, we all have to pull together. Because I think in 2016 it may be our biggest challenge. The Republican governor and the Republican leadership are sending our state down the wrong path. And are we, as North Carolinians, going to turn this thing around? Now, my parents gave me a set of values that I hold today. They taught me the value of hard work. taught me the value of fairness and justice. They taught my Sunday school lessons, and I taught the Sunday school lessons of my 3 daughters. And I'm grateful for the things that this state has given me. But I know that as governor, I will have a cabinet that looks like North Carolina. We don't have a governor who is doing that now. I have a record of recruiting diversity and making sure we have a Department of Justice that represents everybody. My chief of staff in my office is an African-American woman from eastern North Carolina. We all need to pull together because people are hurting out there, and we cannot let this governor and this General Assembly run us into the ground. I am ahead of Governor McCrory right now in the polls. I'm ahead of him in fundraising. We're going to win this thing this fall. I'm going to need your help. Thank you very much.
Oh, you know, I said I was in the 10th grade 3 times. Well, the 3rd time, I was 22 years old. I married and had a baby and had come out of the airport. I went to the high school. I flew when I was in there. I wanted to be a pilot, a fighter pilot. I went to the school and I said, I want to go back to school unless you can't do it. I said, show me the law. Well, I did go back. I made straight A's. I graduated first in the class at Richmond Community College with honors. I've attended Pembroke, UNC Greensboro. I own 4 businesses now. Over 30 years business experience on Moss Real Estate, Charlotte Stacking Sports, North Carolina, South Carolina, Moss Automotive in Ranneman, and I'm married and I have 4 adult daughters. I have 9 grandchildren. And last time I counted, there's 6 great-grandchildren. So it must be 97.
You know all the men is getting it coming. Hello.
We're now down at the Lieutenant Governor candidate. We have with us Mr. Robert Wilson. And Mr. Wilson, we're going to ask you to
District question number 1. Tell us about about 4 minutes.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Before we get started, y'all mind standing up for a minute? If you don't mind, sir. Can we stand up for a minute?
Yeah, maybe.
And allow everybody to stretch, because I know how it is when you eat, your eyes start getting a little heavy, so we need to sit down and stretch a little bit. Now give yourself a hand for being here. All right, now be seated. Now when I get home, my wife asks me, I'll tell her I got to stand in the race. Hi, I'm Robert Wilson. I'm your former Assistant Secretary of State and the Democratic candidate for the office of Lieutenant Governor. I am a 31-year veteran of state government, having worked in state government in 3 different capacities. Worked in the community college for 4 years, worked in the Department of Correction in 2 prison units for 6 years, and also worked in the Secretary of State's office for 21 years. But it was in the Secretary of State's office that I built my resume, so to speak. For 21 years, I was the Chief Legislative Liaison, which meant I ran all of our legislation through the General Assembly. I dealt with 21 budgets. I created positions. I also dealt with LLCs, LLPs, charitable solicitation. You got a notary license. I've dealt with those too. You had a complaint, I'm probably the one you talked to. We also dealt with, we always call ourselves in the Secretary of State's office the heartbeat of the business community, which means
I have a unique understanding of how the economy in North Carolina works. I would tell you that right now, North Carolina finds itself at a crossroads. And we got to decide if we are going to be a progressive state or if we are going to be a regressive state. There are those, present leadership included, that would like to take us back to the days of high unemployment, no jobs, very bad education, and no hope for the future. I'm determined that we're not going there. I have had 21 years of legislative experience, and during that time, we have created in the Secretary of State's office what I consider to be the most diverse agency in the history of state government. When I got there in 1992, there were 87 individuals. We were still doing stuff by paper. When I left, 21 years later, there were 204 of us, 102 minorities. When I got there, there were 7
1 minute left.
Thank you. I would tell you that, without a shadow of a doubt, I helped to create the most diverse agency in the history of state government at all levels. It was important to me because it was important that we had a seat at the table at all levels. Right now, in government, we don't have a seat at the table anywhere. And I will tell you, if you're not seated at the table, then you're on the meeting.
That's right. That's right.
And it is imperative, ladies and gentlemen,
Yes, sir.
that we get seated at the table.
Mr. Wilson, as you look at the former question number 4.
Question number 4. And question number 4 says, North Carolina's general population is 68% white, 21% black, and 8% other. The prison population is 57% white, 35% black, and 8% other. How do you explain the disparity of blacks and whites in the general population in this state and the numbers in the prison population?
I would explain it this way. I don't like sitting down when I'm talking, so if you don't mind, I would explain it this way. Number one, education. We have created this pipeline from school to prison. We need to break that. I would simply tell you that we're not living in the same state that we were 2 years ago. We're not living in the same state we were 20 years ago. Technology has changed the game, without a shadow of a doubt. Our kids now will not compete against kids just in Virginia, Maryland, South Carolina, California. They are competing with kids from around the world. We are now in a global economy, and it is imperative that we get this part right to start with, education. As your next Lieutenant Governor, I'm going to advocate for taking a serious look at our pre-K through 4 curriculum. I want to take us back to the part where we do reading, writing, and arithmetic. Those are the fundamental values that every child has got to have. And it is imperative that we get that right early. You can now take a look at those at the intergrade test in the 3rd and 4th grade. Look at those tests. Determine how many kids fail, and that's how they decide how many prisons they're going to build in the future. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that's wrong. We have got to get the fundamental part right first, and we will. I would also tell you that one of the biggest parts in terms of what I used to work with, of blacks coming to prison is because of opportunity. Nobody cares about affirmative action anymore. The perception is, take me to court. If you think I'm wrong because I hired whoever I wanted to hire, take me to court. And by the time you end up in court, you'll go broke and I'll win. Again, because you're not seated at the table. When your child goes to school, gets in a fight now, they are handcuffed, taken out of the class, taken downtown, booked. They take them to court, in district court, bond it over to Superior Court. Now that child has a felony. That felony follows that child for the rest of their life. Ladies and gentlemen, that's wrong. And we got to fight to change that. A fight should not dictate messing up your life for the rest of your life. Oh,
Okay. Mr. Wilson?
Yes, sir.
If you
Look at your list of questions there. Look at number 7. What is your position on the Affordable Care Act, so-called Obamacare? Why do you feel that way?
I think the Affordable Care Act is without a shadow of a doubt, and when it goes down in history, it will go down as one of the single most important things that Congress did as well as this president did during his tenure. Reason being, right now, in this state, there are some people who have medical coverage that never had it before. And that medical coverage saved their life because they were able to get to a doctor. I would tell you that right now, if you look at it on the brochure that I've given you, where it's got Let's Move North Carolina Forward, I'm not one that's going to tell you what I'm going to do. I'll put it in writing. And if you go down and look at number 3, Medicaid expansion, I would tell you that we need to expand Medicaid. We need to do it now. Because somewhere right now, somebody's laying in a bed because they can't afford to go to the doctor. Because we won't expand Medicaid. And yesterday, yes, somebody died because they couldn't afford to go to the doctor. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're better than that. We can do better. I know we can do better. And I'm tired of talking about expanding Medicaid. If they won't do it, then let's make them put it on the ballot in November and let you, the citizens of North Carolina, vote on it in the form of a referendum. I trust you a whole lot more than I trust them.
Thank you, sir. Now, if you'll have a minute for a closing statement.
Oh, man, that's really quick. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, if you would, take a look at my brochure. And there's a 7-point pro-growth plan in there. Right there, in the middle. I'm very committed to that plan. It took me about 5 years to come up with that plan. But I will tell you that the time has come for us, the people of North Carolina, especially eastern North Carolina, to recreate a manufacturing economy. Right now, North Carolina's economy is a service-based economy. You can't sell but so many hamburgers. We have got to go back to where we manufacture stuff to give everybody a chance to get a job. And we need to raise the minimum wage to a livable wage. Because there's something wrong when you work 30, 40 hours a week and you still living in poverty. We're going to change that.
Thank you.
Anyway, when you go to www.robertwilson for Lieutenant Governor, take a look at our program. And I would also tell you, I am adamant about this. We are going to get illegal guns off the streets of North Carolina. Because when you see a child get killed at 20 years old, between 20 and 35, you see one child. I see 3 generations. You just killed his possible child and his possible grandchild.
Yes, exactly
Now,
right.
somewhere along that line, somebody could have been the next governor, the next president, because I don't believe that God ever made a mistake. He has never, ever made a mistake. When you're born, regardless of the condition, you have an opportunity to be successful. I thank you so very much. I ask for your prayers. I ask for your support. I ask for your vote. And yes, I ask for your donation. Thank you so very much.
Great job, man.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we now have the candidates for Attorney General here in the persons of Senator Josh Stein and Mr. Marcus Williams. Gentlemen, if you take one of those packages. And Mr. Williams, since you chose that one, that's number one, I believe. If you return to the first page there and look at question number one, and in question number one, you can tell us about yourself and what your experiences are, your background, and why we should vote for you. And that's all.
Good afternoon.
You'll have 3 minutes. 3 minutes.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
When there is a conflict between the rich and the poor, the powerful and the weak, or the privileged and the disadvantaged, it is the rule of law which must operate to ensure that justice prevails. My name is Marcus W. Williams. I'm in my 37th continuous year of practicing law. I used to serve as Director of Legal Services out of Bahasi, covering from Halifax to there, and then another regional program where I directed was in Wilmington, Bladen, Columbus, Duplin, New Hanover, Onslow, and Pender counties. I'm prepared. 17 years of serving as a director of programs, providing high-quality services to indigents. Also served as a public defender and on the court-appointed list, and I've dealt with everything from all the classes of misdemeanors to felonies, major felonies. I'm the only candidate of the four who has extensive experience in both criminal and civil law. Extensive. When you have a person's life in your hands, when they face life imprisonment potentially, then you learn criminal law. What is transpiring in the General Assembly is unconscionable. There have been massive attacks. But I wanted to tell you this. I also served as student body president at Williamston High School in the first election after the consolidation of schools, student body president at the University of North Carolina Chapel Hill, and student body president at the University of Minnesota Law School, the first minority ever. I tell you that to let you know that I'm prepared to run the Department of Justice and to provide great service to the people of this state. And we will, with God's help, your vote, we will in fact win, and we will limit some of the changes that the General Assembly is attempting to impose on the poor. That triple attack that they had, where they refused to, in fact, accept $20 billion of Obamacare and create 42,000 jobs, where they cut off the unemployment extension and, in fact, reduced the rate by 32%. And last of all, and least, but not least, the tax scheme that they had, where a family of four making $20,000 a year used to receive $222 back and earn income tax credit. They didn't get that after the change, and they owe $40. A family of four making $250,000 a year received, even though they had the best accountants, an additional $2,318. There were 1 million families in North Carolina that were eligible for that tax credit that they wiped out. I want you to know that I'm going to check them at every step. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Josh Stein, and I live in Raleigh, North Carolina. I am running to become the Attorney General of North Carolina. My family moved here 50 years ago so that my father, Adam Stein, could join with Julius Chambers and James Ferguson, form North Carolina's first integrated law firm. And that firm went on to win a number of path-breaking civil rights cases in employment non-discrimination, school desegregation, and voting rights. And in fact, wonderful day today. Yesterday, a three-judge federal court panel ruled as unconstitutional the congressional plans that unconstitutionally racially gerrymandered these state maps, and my father was part of that legal team, and I was a leading champion on the floor arguing against those unconstitutional maps. I'm in the state Senate. I have been for the past 4 years representing Raleigh. Married, my wife and I have 3 kids in the North Carolina public schools, just like she and I went through the North Carolina public schools. Before I got elected to the state Senate, I taught high school in Africa for a couple of years. I worked for a couple of economic development organizations. With one, the North Carolina Minority Support Center, worked with a couple credit unions y'all may know, Briggs Federal Credit Union, Tri-County Credit Union up here in northeastern North Carolina. I raised millions of dollars to invest in small businesses here in northeastern North Carolina. I was the legal counsel in the United States Senate, and for 8 years, I was the Senior Deputy Attorney General for Consumer Protection in the North Carolina Department of Justice. In that role, I took on predatory lenders, identity thieves, telemarketing scammers, sexual predators who use social networking sites to prey on kids. I went head-to-head against corporate bad actors on behalf of the people of North Carolina and won, returning tens of millions of dollars to the people of North Carolina. I know this job. I will not need any on-the-job training as your Attorney General. And in the state Senate over the last 4 terms, these issues Mr. Williams talked about, I agree. They are steps taking our state backward. That's why I stood up on the floor as a passionate advocate, arguing against the restrictions on people's voting rights, arguing in favor of expanding Medicaid to create jobs, provide health care, and save lives, strengthen struggling rural hospitals. And I've been a loud champion to invest much more in our public schools and not favor these tax giveaways to large corporations and the very wealthy. Those are decisions that are hurting our state and taking us backwards. I would be very honored to have your support in this campaign for Attorney General. I feel like I have the unique qualifications to do the job, having been a senior deputy for 8 years. And at the same time, I know how the legislative process works, so I will make sure that the office does what it needs to do for the people of North Carolina. Thank you all for your time this afternoon.
All right. Mr. Williams, if you were turning you forward to question number 3. And question number 3 is, will you support hiring or agreeing to hire a minority and women's business enterprise consultant to review the spending policies of your public body or the one that you aspire to in order to determine if there is racial equity in its hiring and spending policies? That is, to determine if people of color are being treated fairly and equitably in hiring and spending by your entity.
Thank you, Mr. Sears. For 5 years, I served as the CEO, Director of Legal Services of Pennsylvania statewide, when it was the 5th largest state in the nation. And there I served as the Chief EEO Officer. I'm willing to consider that proposition. I think I want to take my first cut and evaluate the levels and the equities in terms of the numbers, the composition of the Attorney General's staff. It has a budget annually of $53 million. I respectfully ask you to check my website. By the way, it was a sister from Hawaii who did it, and she put some extra flavor on it. The website is Williams4NC AttorneyGeneral.com. Thank you.
I believe that it is central to the charge of the state, whether it's in public schools, whether it's in the Department of Justice, whether it's in our law enforcement offices, that the public servants should reflect the population that they serve. That we need to have a diverse workforce in order to best represent the people of North Carolina. And in my time in the Attorney General's office, I hired a number of African American lawyers. One of the units under my charge was the Victims and Citizens Unit, and so one of the special deputies I hired was an African American man. It didn't hurt that we went to high school together, but I absolutely believe that you need to actively and aggressively provide outreach to make sure that you have an inclusive and representative workforce, and I absolutely commit to do that as your Attorney General.
Thank you.
Mr. Williams, now you have a minute for closing statement.
Again, thank you for the opportunity to be here. One of my priorities would be to make sure that we have no bid contracts in state government. I'm going to make sure that we put heat on each department to make sure that they have conducted due diligence, that they have checked to make sure their minority entrepreneurs are listed in the applicants. We will arrest the problem of no bid contracts. That's one of my priorities. The other is to make sure that state government operates on a schedule, on time, instead of 38 days late and 80 days late, so that they can obfuscate and confuse people and then tack in and throw in all these last-minute changes. I'm the best prepared for this. 37 years of continuous practice. I sincerely ask for your support. I believe that we will revolutionize things in Raleigh. It's time for us swinging the pendulum back. If you want someone to safeguard your individual rights and liberties and protect your taxpayer millions, then vote for Marcus Williams. Thank you.
In the 8 years I worked in the Attorney General's office, I came to appreciate how that office can make a meaningful and real difference in people's lives. I want to run for Attorney General. I want to serve as Attorney General so I can protect people all across North Carolina. I want to protect families and communities by cracking down on violent crime, but also by reducing repeat crime through effective prisoner reentry programs. I want to protect seniors and consumers from scam artists and corporations that break the law. I want to protect the taxpayer by cracking down on Medicaid fraud so that our scarce public dollars can go to provide health care for people who are on Medicaid and deserve that health care. As Attorney General, I will stand up for people who work hard, people who play by the rules, and I will take on big corporations and politicians when they don't, because in North Carolina, no one is above the law. I need y'all's help in order to win. I ask for your help. I ask for your endorsement. With your help, we will elect an Attorney General who puts the people of North Carolina first, and together we'll make North Carolina safer and stronger. Thank you all for taking your Saturday afternoon and spending it in this closed room and meeting with all us candidates. Really appreciate your civic engagement. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Williams, and thank you, Mr. Stagg.
Thank you.
With us, Mr. Andy Stevens, who is a candidate for the North Carolina Commissioner of Agriculture. Mr. Stevens, if you would open up one of those folders. And the first question is an opening statement for you.
Okay.
And, in it, we ask you to tell us about you, your experience, and your background, and why we should vote for you in this office.
Okay.
You have 3 minutes.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Andy Stevens, and I am running for Commissioner of Agriculture and Consumer Services. It's a statewide race, so everybody is, of course, eligible to vote for the office. I am not a career politician. This is my first run for office. I am running against an entrenched incumbent who already has served 3 four-year terms and is seeking a 4th. So it is a matter of changing out the guard, so to speak, that voluntary term limits should be imposed by the people. It's my personal opinion that no one should suspect or consider themselves promised political office forever and ever until they retire. With incumbency comes the potential for corruption, graft, and favoritism while in office. The Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services is a large organization. It has over 2,000 people and 20 divisions. It controls far more than livestock and crops, and it's important that everyone realize that your lives are impacted every single day by decisions and regulations that the Department of Agriculture imposes upon you. I am a graduate of the United States Military Academy at West Point. I served in the Armed Forces in the United States Army, including at Fort Bragg, Fayetteville, North Carolina. I also served overseas. My son, in fact, was born overseas. Again, I am not a career politician, but I am active in politics in my local community. I live in Greensboro, North Carolina, about 3 hours away. In Greensboro, I am known as a conservative activist by the local paper. I regularly attend school board meetings, county commission meetings, and Greensboro City Council meetings. And my views on a number of subjects are recorded on their videos for anyone to go and see. I guess that pretty well sums up why I'm here and what I'm doing. So.
If you return to page, question number 6.
Number 6.
Okay. Number 6 is, how will you incorporate input from the citizens of your state in the decisions that you make?
Okay. Again, I want to point out that the Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services is a vast bureaucracy, and it does impact each and every one of your lives in here. For example, I was a veteran of the propane gas industry. I spent 20 years selling and servicing customers with propane gas. The regulations that covered my business came from the Department of Agriculture. Many people wouldn't know that. If you buy gasoline or diesel for your vehicles, those businesses are regulated by the Department of Agriculture. So it's important to recognize that you all have a stake in this. As far as receiving input, one of the problems with the current incumbent is that there are allegations of favoritism and special treatment within the organization. And in fact, people are afraid to come forward for fear of retribution. So by being an outsider coming in for the first time, I will be able to direct changes be made because I'll have no personal stake in those that are there. I guess that's enough time.
If you would look back at question number 2,
okay.
The North Carolina General Assembly has adopted changes to the state's election laws regarding same-day registration, early voting, out-of-precinct voting, photo ID, and others. A judge will soon rule on some of these changes.
What is your opinion on the proposed changes?
Okay. I am in support of what was adopted by the General Assembly, and of course those matters are going before the courts at the present time. Voter ID will be required for this primary election in March. There are exceptions for people that do not have an ID, but again, you need an ID just about to buy anything in the state as it is. If you purchase cigarettes, if you purchase alcohol, you're required to have an ID at all times on you. If you're receiving government services, you're required to have an ID. So when I first moved to Guilford County from Iredell County, I was required to show an ID in order to vote for the first time in my precinct. So I don't consider it a burden. If it is a burden to a particular individual, there are exceptions, and those people will still be allowed to vote.
Okay. Now, Mr. Stevens, you have 2 minutes for a summarizing statement.
Okay. Again, I am running for the Commissioner of Agriculture and Consumer Services. It is a bureaucracy. It regulates a number of activities. In some cases, it does it in a heavy-handed fashion. And according to the John Locke Foundation, which is a policy group, it costs each and every one of us as citizens in the state of North Carolina a conservatively estimated $700 million a year in compliance costs to comply with those regulations. As with any bureaucracy that has an individual that's over it for years and years and years, the rules and the regulations continue to grow. You may not be familiar with some of the issues. Some of the issues that the Department of Agriculture has run into problems with constituents across the state includes gun rights freedoms. For example, they are banning the carrying of concealed weapons at the state fair, which is otherwise authorized by statute. They created a mandatory chicken registration program last August that forced individual small farmers, backyard farmers, to impose a sales ban upon themselves and required a mandatory government regulation scheme. In the western part of the state, they have carved out for special interest hunting preserves where they are importing deer from other states, putting them on these hunting preserves where individuals can pay upwards of $40,000 for a staged and catered hunt, and potentially bring a disease that's detrimental to the native deer population in North Carolina called chronic wasting disease. The regulatory overreach and the cost of government, again, is an item that the current incumbent does not seem to want to take care of or fix. I will take a top-to-bottom approach to looking at all the rules and regulations, minimizing and eliminating those so that we can reduce the cost of government, which will reduce the cost of goods and services that you buy, again, considering the fact that you use propane, for example, to heat your home, or fuel oil, or gasoline. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Steve.
Is that it? All right, thank you. Thank you all. Again, Andy Stevens, Commissioner of Agriculture. Thank you all.
Colin Coleman. Yeah, Mr.
Ladies and gentlemen, if I can have your attention, please.
Hello.
If I can have your attention, please. We have with us Ms. Linda Coleman, who is a candidate for the Lieutenant Governor's office. She's going to give us a statement.
Good morning. Well, good afternoon. It's been a long day. Good afternoon. I'm very happy to be here with you today, and thank you for the invitation to be here with you today. My name is Linda Coleman, and I am running for the office of Lieutenant Governor. I am a mother, a grandmother, and a product of the public school system as well as the public university system here in North Carolina. I have spent over 30 years in public service, first as a classroom teacher, and then as a human resources management director in state government, working in the Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, the Department of Administration, and the community college system. I first came to run for elected office when I ran for the Wake County Board of Commissioners. It was then that I knew that the children of Wake County needed a fighter on their side because they knew that they needed someone who would know that investing in them was investing in their future. And the reason I ran for Wake County Commissioner was because the Republican administration before then had cut taxes so deeply that our kids were going to school in trailers. And we know that Wake County, with the affluence that it has, was really better than that, and they could do better than that. And so I began fighting for the kids of Wake County. I took those same principles to the General Assembly, where I was elected 3 terms. And during my time there, I was proud to see what the state of North Carolina could do for its citizens if it had a mind to. We did some great things there, and I was proud to serve with the members. We raised the minimum wage. We provided the earned income tax credit
which allowed working families to keep more of the money that they made in their pockets. We provided resources and support to teachers and students in the classroom. We provided access to women for better health care. There were so many things that we did in the General Assembly. We passed the Racial Justice Act. But you know, in 2010, when the Republican administration came in, they unraveled every one of those things. They took us back many, many years. And it is for those reasons that I want to go back to the General Assembly and begin to fight for the citizens of North Carolina, because now we know that Raleigh is not working for us, but we are working for Raleigh. I am the only candidate that has experience in both the executive and legislative branches. After leaving the General Assembly, I resigned the General Assembly because Bev Perdue, the governor, appointed me as the state personnel director. And I left the state personnel director position to run for lieutenant governor. I don't know how many of you will remember, but I did run in 2012. And in 2012, I lost by 6,858 votes out of 4.3 million votes, less than 1/16 of 1%. And so those are the kinds of things that I want to make sure that we address when we go back, because there are many issues that need addressing in North Carolina. I don't know how much more time I have. But there are other issues like the unemployment compensation program, which North Carolina opted out of. It allows North Carolinians to only cap their unemployment time for 12 weeks. We need to expand Medicaid. There are so many issues that we need to do to bring North Carolina back to being a beacon of progress in the South that it was before this Republican administration took place. I thank you for your time. Thank you for allowing me to express my agenda for Lieutenant Governor of North Carolina. My website is www.lindafornc.com. Please like me on Facebook, and I'll have some materials here if you'd like to get in touch with my campaign. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we now have with us Mr. Ronald Pierce.
Yes, sir.
Who is a candidate for the Commissioner's Insurance. Mr. Pierce, if you would take one of those folders and open it up. We've got question number 1 in it, and it says for you to tell us about your experience and your background and why we should vote for you for this office.
Well, that's fairly easy. Okay, quick bio. I'm a licensed aircraft mechanic. That's how I got to North Carolina 28 years ago. Helicopter mechanic for CMC, Carolina's Medical Center now. It used to be Charlotte Memorial. Then I went to work for U.S. Airways as a mechanic in Charlotte. Same time I was doing that, I was also an FAA inspector in Charlotte for helicopters because there was nobody else available. Third, I went ahead and I passed the North Carolina General Contractors exam in 1999. I could build anything that you wanted to. 2007, I went ahead and I took the same test that the building inspectors took. That's just my knowledge of building codes. Very simple. I come out here today to go ahead and tell you who I am. I'm a no-nonsense kind of guy. Very simple. I'm actually, don't know how religious y'all are, but that's my book. I wrote it. I've been falsely accused by the Department of Insurance. I was put in jail for 108 felony counts. That's how bad our Department of Insurance has gotten. I fight the insurance companies for each and every one of you. I do it in the court system. I'll do it. I don't care. The whole point's very simple. I was falsely accused to try to shut me up. Okay? Try facing over 300 years by false charges. $540,000 bond. I'm not looking for anybody's sympathy. I can go ahead and I can handle myself. The problem is how many of y'all can't handle yourself in this type of arena? I have the law to back me up. But this is how bad that this has gotten with the North Carolina Department of Insurance being completely in bed with the insurance companies. Do me a favor, y'all. How many of you guys have Blue Cross Blue Shield in this room? Each one of you guys are getting hosed.
Talk to me.
Very simple. 2014, all the way back 15 years, Blue Cross Blue Shield, first of all, hold on. It's a 501 corporation. Do you know what a 501 corporation is? Nonprofit. Well, what about what happened to all of those 15 years that they made a profit every year? I'm going to tell you exactly what happened. The presidents, the vice presidents, the CFOs, the CEOs, and all this other good stuff is very simple. They kept your money. $10 million for a bonus for the president of Blue Cross Blue Shield 2014. Prove me wrong. Okay? Well, now, wait a minute. 2015, oh, we're going to lose money for the first time in 15 years. But the news industry didn't come up there and tell you all, well, what about the last 14, 15 years of making money? Where's all that money to go ahead and pay for the deficit this year? Okay? That's a question that you all need to ask. I'm not a politically correct individual, nor will I ever be. But I guarantee you one thing, I'm going to tell you the truth. You don't like the truth? Don't vote for me. I don't mind. But I'm the guy that has to put your home back together after you have a fire, you have water mitigation problems. I'm the one that has to fight the insurance companies to put your home back together to where you are the ones that do not have to come out of pocket for so that you all don't have to come out of pocket to pay what you don't really, and it's illegal for you to come out of pocket for to begin with. Do you understand? My wife's an RN. I hear about the health field every day, even though I don't want to hear about it. But I'm going to hear about it. Imagine that, for everybody that's married in here for quite a few years. I hear about every time the insurance costs going up and up and up, but her salary does not. Okay, where's that money going? Well, it sure ain't into my family. So it's very point. I'm trying to be very, very poignant here with what I'm trying to tell you. There's a whole lot of wrong in the state of North Carolina right now. All of it is in my opinion, is in the Department of Insurance. That's the only one, the only office I'm going to run. I'm not a paid politician. You can't buy me. I don't care how much money you got. Because guess what? First of all, there's three things I know. One is insurance law. The other is building codes. And the third is, y'all getting screwed and I know about it. Well, I'm fixing to do something about it. My point's very simple. What are y'all going to do? Now, I'm not going to come up here and tell you everything that y'all want to hear. I'm not interested in telling everything that y'all want to hear. I want to go ahead and I want the Department of Insurance to do as they're supposed to legally. That's exactly my point. Okay? You know where I'm at. Thank you. Hopefully I woke y'all up. That's it.
have ladies and gentlemen, we now have Mr. Charles Meeker, who is a candidate for the Commissioner of Labor. Mr. Meeker, if you would open one of those folders to the table there. And the very first question says, please tell us about you, your experience, and your background, and why we should vote for you in this office.
Okay, well, thank you. My name is Charles Meeker, former mayor of Raleigh for 10 years, and now running for Commissioner of Labor. Can you all hear me in the back okay? Am I speaking loudly enough?
Yes.
I know it's been a long day. I saw your schedule, so let me start with a short story. When I was mayor, I quite often went to community events. I remember going to one of a judge who was retiring, and he told one of the last things he did as a judge before he retired was sentence a guy who had been convicted of distilling some liquor in his basement and then selling it without paying taxes on it. So the judge said to this guy, tell me about your story. And the guy said, well, my name is Joshua. And he started talking. And the judge said, wait a minute. Are you the Joshua who made the sun stand still, referring to that biblical story? And the guy said, no. I'm the Joshua who made the moon shine. Anyway, I served 10 years as mayor of Raleigh, and I found that leadership is a lot about listening, trying to define some goals that your whole community has, trying to find really practical ways to accomplish those goals, and then finally get everybody together working as a team. We had really a pretty good run in Raleigh. I'm not sure how many of you have been there recently, but the downtown is a different place than it was 10, 15 years ago. Our parks and greenway system has really grown. We've done a lot of sustainability. So Raleigh has really come along. In terms of the Department of Labor, it currently is not getting its job done. That is, employees who work and haven't had their wages paid, the department doesn't take steps to see that they get paid. A lot of employees are misclassified as contractors, so they don't get benefits as they should as employees. The department doesn't do much about that. Of course, we have workplace safety issues. So in terms of my experience, I would hope to bring some energy to this office, to really have the Department of Labor start working for the citizens of this state and try to get the rules we have in place enforced. The reality is it's tough being a working person in the United States. It's particularly hard being a working person in North Carolina where there's so many low-paying jobs. And the few protections that we do have in terms of the benefits and in terms of being sure you get at least minimum wage and overtime ought to be enforced by this department and currently aren't being done right now.
Okay. Mr. Meeker, if you would turn to question number 3. Number 3 says, will you support hiring or agreeing to hire a minority and women's business enterprise consultant to review the spending policies of the public body or the one that you aspire to in order to determine if there is racial equity in its hiring and spending policies? That is, to determine if people of color are being treated fairly and equitably in hiring and spending by your entity.
Let me answer the question is yes, I'm willing to do that. I think part of that is really a question of who you bring to the office, and that is if you look at my campaign in terms of who's working on it, you'll see it's a diverse group. It's not just European Americans, but African Americans involved too. Should I win the office, I would hope that the folks I would bring in would be a diverse group, not just white men, but women, African Americans, and some Hispanic Latinos as well. So I would very much hope that the Department of Labor would mirror the appearance of North Carolina, and that is that department would employ people who look like the citizens of North Carolina, both in terms of gender as well as ethnic and racial background.
Okay. And if you would go to number 6, how will you incorporate input from the citizens of the state in the decisions that you make?
In terms of how I get input, a couple of things. One is, as mayor, I always had an open door policy. That is, people who wanted to come see me or call me. I took calls and people came by to talk about things. Secondly, I was out in the community to 8 or 10 community events a week. I would intend to be out and around the state. And finally, there are situations where you want to have public hearings. where if you're changing a regulation or looking into a problem, you have public hearings where people can actually come forward and make a formal statement for the record. So I think really in all three of those ways, one is if people want to come to see me at the office, I'll try to be available. I will be out and about at meetings like this, should I get elected, as I'm doing during the campaign. And finally, there will be occasions when there are formal public hearings.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Interject real quick. I was already asked a couple of questions. If any of y'all have any questions for me, I'll hang around for you. I'm not going to go anywhere. Please test my knowledge.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And now, we have, finally, we have Ms. Ricky McCoy Mitchell. She is a candidate for the Court of Appeals, and as such is not on the ballot at this time, but she wanted very much to come by and speak to us. And so we granted her the option to do so.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
And I thank you because I know I'm not on your schedule, but I am Judge Ricky McCoy Mitchell, District Court Judge in Mecklenburg County. So actually my husband Rick Mitchell back here, and I came through Roseville, and then we came down here, and he's from Bertie County, and I'm from Harnett County. So we have our Eastern North Carolina background. But I appreciate your being willing to listen to me for just a couple of minutes this afternoon. Because as I indicated, I am seeking a seat on the North Carolina Court of Appeals. Do not have a primary, but will be on the November ballot. It is critical that you know about the judges. We're the last ones usually that you hear from, and the information is very limited oftentimes. But we affect your lives every single day, in every aspect of your life. And so your knowledge about the judges is critical. And that's why I'm here, because I think it's important for you to hear from us. I actually have been practicing both civil and criminal law for 14 years before I came to the bench. So I believed in making sure I was there about people's issues. That's what I wanted to do when I was growing up in Harnett County, so from Dunn. Wanted to make sure I had the opportunity to have an impact upon people's lives. Going to the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, both undergraduate and law school, and then working at Legal Services, Office of Hearings and Appeals for the Social Security Administration, Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, and then the District Attorney's Office before going on the bench. And I am the longest currently serving District Court Judge in Mecklenburg County. So I've been on the bench almost 18 years. So I have prior experience. As a judge, that I'm seeking to be on the North Carolina Court of Appeals. The North Carolina Court of Appeals is our appellate court. That's where after the cases leave the district court and the superior court, and I'm talking about cases that affect your lives, whether it's domestic violence, could be child support matters, it could be criminal matters, civil matters, domestic matters, all of those go to the North Carolina Court of Appeals. And that's where you want people who are there, who are experienced. People who are committed to your community. You want people who are there who are fair and people who are respected. And that's what I've worked very hard for over my entire legal career and beyond, to make sure that's what I was bringing to the bench. Because you see now we have judges on our Court of Appeals. And remember I told you how critical we are. Because after you leave the trial court, the Court of Appeals is where most of the cases that are appealed are heard. Because very few get to the Supreme Court. So that's where the decision will be made. And if you have a judge on that Court of Appeal that has never seen anybody walk into a courtroom, never presided over one of those cases, never heard a 15-year-old boy tell you that if I'm living tomorrow, then I'll know what I can do in life. If you don't have judges like that who actually have seen the people in the cases, then how can you have judges who read it on the paper and make the kind of decision that is coming from a judge who's experienced, who's fair, who's committed, and who's respected? And I've been very blessed by having several recognitions about that focus, but it really is not about the recognition for me, or really not even about me particularly for that bench, except for what I bring to it, but it's about our community. It's about each and every one, individually, as a family, as a community. Because the Court of Appeals will affect our lives, and that's across the state. So from where I'm coming from Western North Carolina to Eastern North Carolina, in all aspects, we will be impacted. But it will be your decision how we get impacted. And that's because I'm running Ricky McCoy Mitchell for the North Carolina Court of Appeals. Thank you.
You will remember last election, Keisha Lovelace was running for the Court of Appeal. Now, I'm not endorsing this lady, but I want you to remember something.
Yeah.
I want you to remember something. We thought Keisha was going to make it. The state Democratic Party did not support her. Okay? And she lost the election. Now I'm telling you to search your conscience. And the gentleman told you, if you're not at the table, you are definitely on the menu. So the only thing I'm telling you is, you have an opportunity to be at the table. So you won't be on the menu. That's all I got to say. Thank you for coming today. Word, this is a kind of, you got an announcement?
Yeah, I'll be very well. Just take 1 minute, okay.
Any other announcements? Come on, line up.
You got to announce
Yeah, March the 12th.
You get to know.
Let me have your attention for one moment. Many of you were present in Greenville on the night when we did our voter rights forum. It went very well, and I thank you for your presence. We have our next voter rights forum and get out to vote rally scheduled for March 6th in Durham, and we will be headlined by the Honorable G.K. Butterfield. Hope all of you can support it.
Where at?
It's at the Union Baptist Church, Durham, and it's in my newspaper somewhere, but I don't have a specific street address. Thanks so much. The time is going to be 5 to 7, Sunday, March 6th.
5 to 7, March 6th. The next meeting for the Civic group, will be in Windfall, North Carolina, at the town hall. On March the 12th at 11 a.m. Please try to make it. If you can't make it, better stand up. Please. This lady here will take your name and your email address, and she will make sure you get a copy of the emails that we sent out. Okay? I would like to thank the Alliance for partnering with the Eastern Civic Group and putting this meeting on today, which has been a terrific, I know it's been a long day, but it's been a terrific meeting. We got a lot of information. Don't sit on it. Don't sit on it. Take it back and apply it, or let the people in your community know what you have been, what you received here today.
In closing, I just want to take this opportunity to thank the Eastern North Carolina Civic League for sponsoring this event. I want to thank Moses Matthew for bringing us to this venue for this very informative and very powerful event today. I also want to thank Dr. Forrest Toms North Carolina A&T State University Leadership Studies Program. Invigorating, stimulating presentation. The key to our success is collaboration, collective action, working together. And we recognize as an alliance that in order for us to be effective in addressing the multitude of issues in North Carolina, we have to come together, pull together, and work together. And so we recognize the importance of that kind of collaboration. If you think this was powerful, if you think this was successful, then we want to challenge and encourage you to come to our annual event, the North Carolina, the NC Black Summit, North Carolina Black Summit, on April the 21st to the 23rd in Raleigh, North Carolina, at the Hilton Garden Inn. That's a new hotel in the Crabtree area in Raleigh. We want to challenge you to come. We're going to have a continuation of this kind of conversation to address the issues that was addressed. And let me also thank those candidates, the statewide candidates, who took the time and the sacrifice and the interest and investment to come here to disseminate the kind of information that hopefully will help us to become more empowered and more proactive and more effective when we go back to our respective communities. So again, I want to thank the Honorable Mayor, the Eastern North Carolina Civic Group, Bo Matthews, and more especially, please, especially you for taking the time all day to be here to get this information, these presentations, and the kind of awareness that we have been benefited from today. So thank you again on behalf of the Alliance.
All the elected officials. Go ahead, hurry up.
Yeah, I just want to say this. I just thank y'all for y'all really open my eyes up and learn me. Now I know how to go back to Mother and tell them something.
All right. This is Black History Month, and I ain't gonna let you forget it.
That's why we all black.
This is a black mayor from Creswell, the first one ever.
Yeah.
This is a black man from Williamston, the first one ever.
Yeah.
This is a black councilman from Hereford, North Carolina. And this is a black man from Windfall, North Carolina, forever. But with all that said, you can't have fun. Dr. Sawyer, who's the pastor of New Bethel Baptist Church in Brooklyn County, will give us traveling mercy. If we could all hold hands, just look up. Just touch somebody. Come on through the chute now, as they say in the country. Y'all gotta come through the chute. Y'all don't know about the chute.
But they're a little elderly. Y'all might need to come this way.
Oh, okay. Pull it down.
Connected to the front. The Holy Rights God, Father, we just want to say thank you. What's enable us to come together as one. Father, we may take this knowledge back to our current communities and we will share it with our people. Father, as we're about to leave this building, we pray that we leave not your presence. Give us safe travel mercy back to our service destination. We'll continue to lift up your name and give your name to praise. Yes, Lord. It's in the name that really matters, Jesus Christ, we pray. And we all say, amen.
Amen. And give James Sears a hand.
Amen.